An Evolution, George, because that's the stuff I like to watch for some reason.
Yeah, but you only like that because the voice is really relaxing. I was talking about Evolution. Well, then
It's not because of the voices are relaxing, it's because I get to learn some cool stuff, you know.
Then the giraffe said, nah.
I am live, by the way, George, so...
Oh, for God's sake! You son of a gun!
Oh, stop, man. I'm trying to type my,
Title.
I'm trying to type my description.
Episode 7. This man is a goblin. I've just called it podding.
The titles for your videos get worse every week. I'm not even lying, George.
Yeah, I like it though. I really enjoy it.
It's exactly why we can't be a professional like podcasting channel, man, because you're just calling your stream podcasting.
No, I just called it podding. I didn't even call it podcasting. It's just called podding. P-O-D-D-I-N. Oh, god damn it. I am live as well. What's up, losers? Welcome to the podcast.
We've not really done a proper intro, have we? Have you been on the drink, George?
No, I'm just lethargic, you know. It's nice to speak to
can we
someone.
do a proper... well, if you would have played, you know, earlier when I was streaming, you could have.
I was out. I went to the shops at half 6.
I thought you meant knocked out.
At 7.
Oh, you like knocked out because of the drink, mate.
Face. I was knocked out. I need to hide my stream so it's not using all my CPU.
Alright, I've done some tags. I'm almost ready to start, guys. So yeah, let's do a proper intro, George. So, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, losers.
George, we're like the biggest bunch of losers here.
Yes, sir. What tags did you do? Did you just write?
You're trying to alienate the whole audience, man. Calling them all losers. Hello, everyone who's here. Yeah, I think he might be. YouTube. Alfie, he might be, yeah. Everyone like the stream. Hey, Rocky. Hey, Alfie. Hey, Caleb. Hey, Mr. Playstop. We're not going to talk much of chat because obviously me and George, this is going to be a professional podcast.
Why have you made me wide? I've just
you see the moustache? The moustache is coming through again, man. Look, you can see. Lockdown.
What do you mean? Listen. My trailer's great, Caleb. My title's great. Sorry, my trailer.
This is going to be a professional podcast from the rest of this stream, man. I was just saying to Jordan, we're not trying to be those podcasting channels because we always seem to just like do our research like an hour before and you know somehow fluke it.
Yeah,
you guys still want.
That? It's almost like you told me yesterday what the theme was.
That was 2 days ago, George.
That was yesterday.
Let's be fair. It was 2 days ago.
It was I have the chat logs.
So today,
go back
guys,
and tell you...
we're going to be talking about iconic moments in gaming history. I think George has been on the drink, so...
Welcome to the podcast, baby.
You know, I've never seen George this, like, hyped up. He's normally like a zombie. So, I don't know. Is that Rockstar, man?
Yes, it is. It's the Blueberry Rockstar.
You've not built up a tolerance like me, George. I've got a tolerance to Monster, man. You see me crack open like 10 years in the stream.
No. The reason you've got a tolerance isn't because of anything good. Your blood to liquid ratio is 80% Monster.
How many likes we got, boys?
Who knows? I can't find my.
Yeah, I'm not going to check the likes because it's going to take George's face off.
We're good.
Not that anyone wants to look at it.
Do I need?
You know.
I need to open your chat so I can see if people are bad mouthing me.
The problem is I have to have this pop-up window open. I don't like that.
Why don't you do what I do? Have like dual screen it if you can.
Yeah, George, don't know how to do.
Because I've got the big TV with half of it being my chat, half of it your chat, and then the bottom is my streaming in. You can cover it as long as it's open, you know?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna just copy your title.
How about now? Is that working? Why are you overstretched past the border, man? That's getting my OCD.
Because you've stretched me, you absolute loser.
Okay, now you've frozen apparently, George. That's good. I think that looks good.
This man.
God's sake.
Who knew this podcast was episode 7, 8? Can you believe it's been 7
Episode
weeks
7, and
running?
I feel like they're getting worse.
We tried so much harder at the beginning.
To be honest, I think this is the most I've tried, but still.
I tried very hard at the beginning.
George, you're frozen. Oh, I don't care. Just leave George's face like that because at least it won't go grey. And it's, you know, it's the perfect sort of facial expression for the whole thing. He looks kind of shocked, but kind of like his heart.
It looks like you've just taken a picture. You've taken a screenshot of me. You absolute son of a gun.
Thank you very much. You know, I try my best.
I don't know why that's happening.
Should we get started on the podcast,
fault,
George?
That ain't me.
Because
that ain't me, Chief. That's your internet connection, not mine.
Hang on, why is there a big George in my background? That is the problem. Where's that come from?
I'm just vibing in the background.
Where's that come from, man?
And no, Caleb, you are not an iconic moment. Imagine bragging about being more prepared this stream, and it is the worst we've ever done.
You're just making it worse, George. I might have to restart the bloody stream. Imagine people re-watching this podcast at work or whatever, thinking, what the bloody hell are they talking about? I come here for gaming moments, and all I've got is a bunch of rubbish.
Epic gaming moments, okay?
Is he fixed? No, he's not.
No, I'm the one. No, the image isn't working, but the video of me behind the Atari is working.
Oh, he's back. Yes, boys. George is moving. My day's going good, thank you. But we're going to get into the podcast now because the first 6 minutes,
moment in history.
the first 6 minutes and 50 seconds of this podcast has been pure garbage.
Utter garbage.
So let's start from here.
Cut this
6
out
minutes
and edit.
50.
Edit. We'll just cut this out in the edit. It's fine.
Yeah, act as if we've got an editor,
The
George.
Shedcast.
Sure.
Welcome to the podcast.
You know my editing,
ladies and gentlemen.
and you never know where to cut
Alfie, I am not.
it. Let's start. Yeah, he does seem a bit odd. I think it's the rock star.
I'm
going to
hyped
crack
on
open a
it.
fresh monster before we do get going.
Yes, it is essential.
I need to try and get on
to keep your tolerance levels up.
George's level.
You've got to be 80% monster at every point of the day, otherwise you will just go into a sugar crash.
Exactly. That's how I see it.
Stay alive. Yes. Okay.
Alright,
So the layout for this one is we're going to pick a game each, or we picked 3 games each, and 3 consoles.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell you a little bit about why the games
I got a feeling George has just gone for like a knockoff, you know, a knockoff PSP or something. I'm talking about it from China with like 60 games on.
Listen,
You know what I said? Unusual gaming console, George. That is not what I meant. It's only gone for like a knockoff of Mario.
I have not gone for those. I've gone for ones that are like precursors, alright? Trust.
Alright.
Trust.
Don't turn up your sound, George, because literally all I heard with them was trust. Like just randomly and then back down
What?
again. Let's start the podcast off now, George. This has been 8 minutes of messing around. I know we need to stretch them out to get it to 2 hours, but this is getting ridiculous now. Okay.
Welcome to the podcast,
So-
ladies and gentlemen. Gaming moments.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Why is that
Do you
funny?
move that closer to your mouth?
Because it's my mic, you know. Well, welcome to the podcast, guys. Today,
Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
just got a bit of a dry mouth there.
Okay,
So today we're going to be talking about iconic moments in gaming history. You know, me and George love talking about games, so this is going to be a good one. I hope so, anyway.
yes,
We've done about 3 minutes of research on each one.
Listen, I did a little bit more than 3 minutes. this time.
No, I've done longer than that. That was a joke, guys. But it's going to be fun because, you know, we've both got a lot of energy for some reason. You know, it's 10 o'clock at night, but me and George don't wake up till like 7 p.m, so we're all good.
Don't out us like this.
Let's get started anyway, because I'm just going to keep rambling on pure rubbish.
Yes.
So I'll start.
Welcome to the podcast.
Believe it or not, guys, the budget has been up for this one. As you can see, we now have images on the screen, which I can interact with. So the first
What happened is
console,
we've actually gone to game.
and I also
and
have a
we've
book for my
taken these
research, you
steps.
see. It's called Retro Tech. You know, it's a good book.
So
Get it?
what we're gonna do for this podcast, we've got a history of games, or in particular like 3 games that are.
You start
what
with
we
the
are
consoles,
calling,
George.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying what the running order is, not particularly in this order. So we're gonna start with the consoles, three consoles, why they are iconic, why they are important parts of history that should not be forgotten. Same with 3 games each. And then I've got some gaming news. So,
I think I'll start, George, because, you know,
hell yeah,
I'm going with the Atari. So, yeah, I picked the Atari, guys. So, a lot of you are a lot younger, and you don't know what the Atari is, but your parents probably have one of these, or maybe your grandparents. This was released in
it wouldn't be that long ago.
It was released in 1977 in North America. It was $199, and that's what it looked like on the screen right there, as you can see. For some reason, it's got a wood effect on there. It looks kind of like someone just like built, like started building a table and then just built a gaming console around it, or it looks like some like.
The reason why they put the wood effect on there was it broke up the plastic, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, it would fit in most houses then, because they all had like wooden look tables, didn't they? To be honest,
and wouldn't look like walls.
It looks pretty cool, but it doesn't really look like a gaming console, does it? When you look at it. Well, let's read some stuff out of my book anyway. So
here's the book reading.
If the Fairchild VS, If the Fairchild VS introduced many significant features, I feel like I'm reading a bedtime story. The Atari video computer system.
Before you talk, let me talk about the Fairchild, because that is the one that I've gone for.
No.
So.
No, George, because I'm finishing this off now. I'm halfway through, man. You'll have to go backwards. Let me just read it. So, game cartridges were offered distinctly different games, each thanks to the 128 colours with their own aesthetic to maximise the appeal of this new variety. Arcade joysticks were also bundled with the systems, tossing aside the clunky and somewhat developmental feel of what had passed before and creating a true in-home arcade feel. These reasons alone are why many people associate the Atari 2600 with the birth of home video games, and why it's the most successful one of the most successful consoles of all time. Struggled a bit there at the end, but yeah, I mean, think about it. I chose this console because, you know, for me it changed video games, because before this, video games existed in the arcade, as it said in the book. You know, this was probably the first console that your parents, your grandparents would have been exposed to. And, you know, you had a joystick, you plugged it into the TV, it changed everything. You could play video games from the comfort of your own home. People hadn't really had that before on, like, a very, you know, on this kind of level where it's, like, very professional. I know when you look at that now, you think, oh, what a piece of junk. But back then, in 1977 to the mid-80s, that was a beast of a system. And to be honest, if you got one of these now, you're looking at good money. If you got one of those in the box, you're probably looking at a couple of grand. Yeah. So don't knock it, guys. So before the system, people
I'm back, by the way. My connection dropped temporarily.
Yeah, before the system, people had to buy different consoles for each games. So this also allowed people to play different games on the one console rather than having to buy like 10 consoles. So like now, it's kind of gone the opposite way, because now consoles do that anyway. Like, they push for exclusivity, don't they? Although they have just stopped that.
Yes, but they don't just do that. They have multiple games.
Console wars.
But the way you're talking about it, like, for God's sake, professional gamers. The reason why it's such a big thing that the cartridges came along was because you did have to have specific boxes with each thing. So you could buy Pac-Man games, which were the console and the game Pac-Man. You could buy Tetris, which was just...
Yeah, I'm getting onto that, George.
The thing. Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so, you know, the console wars have kind of come to an end now with PlayStation, Xbox. But back in the day, you would just have to buy 10 different consoles just to play a different game. So it's all in one system. It made it more accessible.
I think they were cheaper though. The single use ones.
And then you had games like Pong. I mean, there were so many variations of Pong. So you just used to follow this like single line across the screen. Yeah, try and hit the ball. I've actually played this. I don't know what I played it on there. I think it was
There was a history of gaming thing. I think either we went to or I've been to.
No, I think it was on the PS3 maybe.
Oh wait, you mean like a
like
remake?
A remake, yeah. I've played it somewhere. I know I have, or maybe not the PS3, but like I don't know, like a knockoff gaming system. I don't know, but I've played it.
It could have been an arcade, to be honest.
It was like one of those, like, you know, those little TV arcade box things, and they put like the old games on there. It was like that. It's quite fun to play actually, and you do get these kind of games on like most mobile phones and things like that, and like Game Boys, and they get ported over. Space Invaders. Oh, now name a more iconic game than Space Invaders. You know, and that's where it got popular. You know, in the arcade machines and on this.
So I've got a fact about that I haven't written down. This is one that I know off my head. All of the things in that game are supposed to be the same speed. But every time you take off a layer of things, it frees up data, so it slowly speeds up. They are all supposed to be the same speed in the original.
The thing is, back then, people play arcade machines for like 50 hours, you know, just to beat like Space Invaders. Yeah. It would be like, it would go on forever. But like, I don't know how they can be that quick, man, because they do get pretty quick after a while. You know. Yeah, well,
the thing, like, so it was that, and it was Space Invaders, and it was Galactica, I think. Those were the big games back in the day that had huge tournaments.
I wonder if the Space Invaders crisps were influenced by the Space Invaders game.
I think so, yeah.
Interesting. That's not a fact, guys. We don't know that that's true. But
that one's not.
To be honest, most of the stuff me and George say, I'd probably say 40% of it's garbage.
But there are grains of truth in it.
Why is it, George? Every time I put a disclaimer in, you always take a drink, man. It's a dangerous game.
Every time we disclaim, take a drink.
It looks sick, so professional. Right, so you see that system on the screen? In today's money, that would be the equivalent to a MacBook Pro. Now, what would you rather have? That or a MacBook Pro?
Well, I think... Well, the thing is, at the time, that was the MacBook Pro of the thing, right? So now you'd want the MacBook Pro. But
yeah, because you didn't have all this technology. That was literally it. That was the height of technology. That was the first, you know... I think one of the first in-game home systems, or in-home game systems,
that's basically. The thing. It's not.
Because George got the first one. But to be honest, no one ever thinks of the Fairchild.
The reason for that...
I didn't even know it existed.
I've literally written it down. So the reason, like...
George, we're not going to talk about that yet. You can get onto that after I finish my section on the Atari.
This boy...
Because I don't want them to merge together. I want to get through them one by one. So we're going to be talking about money for a lot of this. Because, you know, it's nice to see like how much consoles made and all that stuff. And it's always interesting to know. So, in 5 years, the company made $28 million. And in 10 years, it made $1 billion. Interesting. It's a lot of money back then. You're talking 1977. I mean, $1 billion then is like $100 billion today.
Pre-inflation and stuff as well, yeah.
It's a lot of money. Back then. Now, I got another cool fact here. So, I don't think this ever got released, but they were the first gaming system to actually release an exercise device for a system. And it was called the Puffer. So the TV was connected up to a bike, and they stated that there's a whole generation of kids that are not into sports. We have seen kids get addicted to video games. We are going to hook up an exercise bike to a video game where the bike is a controller. I think that's an example of how it would look on the screen. I don't know if it ever got released.
Considering that didn't really happen again until the Nintendo Wii and the Xbox Connect.
Exactly. The Nintendo Wii was the next time this happened. So for a whole like 30 years, they didn't even touch upon that concept again. And look how successful the Wii was.
Well, the reason why the Wii was successful was because it did appeal to a new generation compared to this, where it was the same generation but a bike. I think the Wii appealed to a lot of.
I think the problem with that as well is you got to fit the bike in the living room. You know what I mean? And
yes,
it's gonna get clunky. It's gonna get in the way. The Wii is, you know, it's just so simplistic. It just works. Yeah. You know, but
and the biggest thing you can get on that was the Wii Fit board, right? That was the chunkiest bit of kit you could get.
Like a lot of the things I've been looking at when I've been doing my research is video game first, and this was a first for video games. I mean, we're talking 1980s, and then thinking about, you know, hooking up a bike to the system. I don't think it ever happened. I think it was a prototype, but still, that is really cool to know, I think. So, did you know that Atari had a competitor secretly owned by themselves?
I mean, that's genius, isn't it? I love that.
And it was named Key Games. So they had a competitor just to compete with themselves in the market.
So the thing is, like, that would give them the pure monopoly, which is something that cannot happen now because of, like, fair trade deal. Not fair trade.
Well, obviously, if PlayStation created another console, then, you know, everyone would have to know about it, you know.
Well, yeah, because it'll be nowadays it's like against trading laws to secretly own something to go against yourself, because that pits yourself up against yourself, which does not create an indicative market.
I've just been thinking to myself, George, not that this has anything to do with what you're saying, but we're actually getting into like a load of facts now, and it's looking very professional. But I feel like we've just cut off our entire audience at the start of the podcast. So if you're still watching, I have to give you props.
But like we sound professional, and then you look at my stream, which has got the Memphis pattern in the background, and it's just
mine looks professional because I've upped the budget, man. I mean, I've got the images, you know, I've got all the facts for it down. Mine's looking very professional.
It's alright. Look, I have.
But it is kind of ruined by our shenanigans at the start. I mean, we've got to be more prepared. I mean, I started off and you were singing and everything. Okay, so another fact. I got a lot of facts. You know, I love the facts. Alfie said he's still watching.
Love the facts.
Alfie's the only one that watches these. But people do watch them, you know, because I do get a lot of extra viewers after it goes up. So
yeah, they slowly tick through.
But I don't know whether they're, you know, skip through or what. But if they're, our intro was 7 minutes. I'm gonna carry on now anyway. We're gonna get past that.
Yeah,
I just thought I'd mention it because it just come in my head. I was just thinking, Jesus, we've just alienated the whole audience at the start of the podcast. But so Atari actually, they contracted a company known as Microsoft. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Small company, small startup.
Well, it was then, not now.
Yeah, it was then.
To port basic programming language to the Atari 800. 1 year later, the software had yet to be completed, and Atari and Alan, I think it's Alan Marker. I can't read my own writing, but a guy called Alan took over basically.
Alan.
So technically, Atari was the only company to have fired Bill Gates, and that's it. I don't think I can. I think I've plateaued now with the facts because I don't think we can. That's like a brilliant fact there. I don't think I can do better than that.
Yeah,
so we'll move on.
That's the highest fact.
So George, your first console. I don't know whether yours is going to go on for as long as
talk about the Fairchild.
Yes. So George is going to step back. I believe
this was a year before the Atari. They would have.
No one ever talks about this console.
No one talks about it because the Atari was such a big seller. It went. The Atari sold for cheaper, and this thing.
Why was it called the Fairtrade? Fairchild
Channel F.
Oh, the Fairchild. I'll call it the Fairtrade. The Fairtrade console.
So, from what I could tell, this is the first console to allow for cartridges. As you said earlier, that was a big thing for technology. To be able to change what you want to play was huge. Definitely. I have not gone as in depth as you have. I didn't realise we were going full.
George, I did like 20 minutes on each one.
You said 10, little goblin.
What are you chatting?
You said 10 minutes.
I don't think it was that in depth. I think I just took my time because I feel like we rushed through things on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
I decided.
So it does. So the Fairchild does not look as good as the Atari.
You know what? I think my camera angle. And I'm interrupting you, but I think my camera today is actually looking pretty fire. I think it makes me look a lot slimmer than usual. I don't know what it is.
It's probably because half the camera's pointing at your door behind you. You've saved off your weight by not pointing half the camera at you. It's only half of you.
No, I think it looks pretty good today.
Yeah,
I don't know why I brought that up in the middle. Well. This is why the podcast is not professional, because my mind will just go, oh, you know, the camera's looking good. Let's talk about that. Carry on, George.
Honestly, all I've got is stuff that you've already said about the Atari. To be honest, it was previously all things were pre-installed, and it was the first thing to push for separate games to be sold, which created a market for games creators. Whereas before, it was big companies that could put it straight
but with the
onto
Atari, it
technology.
was all on one console. That was the first console to do that. So
no. This was the first one. This was a year before.
You sure?
And absolutely, I fully made double check my facts on this. This was a year before the Atari, and it did the stuff the thing you're talking about. It even mentions it in the Atari. How it's the Fairchild was the precursor to this.
It says the Atari revised the features. I think.
Solidified so it used the Fairchild as a base.
It solidified those features into something more fad, something more popular, something more.
Yeah, absolutely. But that would not have existed without the Fairchild, which I think pushed even though the Atari outsold it, it wouldn't have existed without it. I don't think.
Is that all you got, George?
That's all I've got because I didn't realise you'd say the goddamn Atari and use all of my information.
Well, I said I would pick
Let me go next. Let me go next.
No, because then you aren't any left. So we have to do it one by one.
Well, no, I've got 3. So I've got...
No, George. I'm going to go next because I've got 3 and they're all as in depth. So I want to give you some time to talk about them in a bit. Otherwise...
No, because if what happens is... In my head, what's going to happen now is you're going to be like, oh, this one. And I'm going to be the one that's the precursor to it. And my dumbass is going to look dumb.
It's not going to happen, George.
No,
I'm going to start. It's my turn now. Okay. So it's a Nintendo 64. I don't think that's George's one.
I didn't go for it. I figured you'd do it, but I did not go for it. I was looking.
I know this is one of George's favourite consoles, so...
I love the Nintendo.
Oh, man. You gotta stop doing this to me, George. Yeah, let me just get my facts. I'm like an old man, getting the glasses out. I have to figure out where I'm at. That's what happens when you get older. Saying that at 23. Look, George has got one to show you, even though I already have a picture up there. You gotta one-up me, George. We've got to get all the PS2 games out again. Right, so Nintendo 64 was released in 1996, and it had 32 million copies sold by 2009. It's not bad. It was the first ever console to feature 3D games and an analog stick. That's what makes this console iconic. Because without that, you wouldn't have games like we do today. You wouldn't have Fortnite. You wouldn't have Call of Duty. You wouldn't have all this that we have today. You just have 2D games.
Before you go on to that, I just want to talk about even later in development of the 64, they talk about having 2 analog sticks. So, in particular
I think the analog stick definitely changes the game, because if you play the PS1, it's so rigid. I mean, that has analog sticks, but you used to use the PS1
the precursor was that the one before that was just the one without the analog sticks. It was just the up, down, left, right, and the buttons. It didn't have.
Yeah, and I've played Sega and stuff. Like the original Segas and the Mega Drives and that, and they don't have analog sticks.
They don't need it though, because they're side scrollers. It's not until you get into 3D motion when you need an analog stick.
Exactly, but they didn't know that until this console, obviously.
No, absolutely. In GoldenEye, there is a control scheme where you use 2 controllers, so that you can have left and you can strafe. Sorry, and you have to hold one controller in each hand. And
yeah, well, I'm going to get onto this, George, because the issue with having the one analog was actually, say we're playing games like Mario Party, it required players to use the analog stick with the palm of their hand, and it resulted in blisters. Yeah,
because they're not comfortable controllers to hold.
Yeah, that's another thing. The controller is iconic, but it's so freaking weird in my eyes. Seeing the controllers of today, it is weird. It does give you more grip, but it's just odd, man.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Hold on.
It looks like it would give you more grip. But then what's that, whole middle section for? Pointing out, there's no need for it. It does look different.
So,
You have a PS1 and the controller has no analog sticks. I think it does.
no, the first PS1 does not have analog sticks.
I've got the. I must have the re-release of it or something.
These are solid plastic with no cushion.
Because I can see my PS1 controller down there and it has analogs.
Yeah, yours would be the second generation PS1 then. So the way that I hold it is like this.
This has got to George just demonstrating Nintendo 64 stuff.
Well, the reason that this is important was because when you were playing such games where you required two controllers, you'd have to hold it like this.
It's been so many years since I've played on one.
This is the exact shape of a nunchuck that they used in Nintendo.
I think this was one of my brother's main consoles growing up. My brother's 30 something. This is what my brother used to play on. Now my main consoles would have been obviously all the PlayStations, so it's very different.
These controllers hurt like hell to hold. So it's solid plastic, whereas with PlayStations you've now got a little bit of padding with the rubber, right?
Yeah. I think that's why the PS1 did so well, because Nintendo was supposed to work with PlayStation to make a new console, wasn't they? But Nintendo wouldn't pay them enough, I think, and they just went somewhere else, and PS1 ended up just making... Well, PlayStation and Sony just ended up making their own console. And it's the controller that makes all the difference. That's what made that take off more. That's what made it all the range, the controller, because the PlayStation controllers, for me, have always been the most comfortable.
They are the most comfortable. So, in the previous generation of this, you wouldn't have
so even though that's nothing compared to a PS5 controller, it's still a lot. You've got a lot more space. You got a lot more control.
You don't have the weird dongle in the middle either. The dongle in the middle really messes with.
Don't stop me doing that hand motion on the podcast, man. Also, the Nintendo 64 was one of the first consoles to actually release consoles in different colours. So you had an orange one, you had a blue one, you had all different colours. In the PS2...
They did the limited edition Pokemon one, which is cool
PS2 and consoles that followed, they also did this, the Game Boys. So they kind of followed suit. Nowadays, with the new PlayStations, we have different designs, but they mainly stick to the two main colours of black and white, don't they, really?
Black and white, and maybe sometimes they run a blue or red.
Yeah. We also have...
market research.
Donkey Kong 64 on this console.
Woo!
Iconic
What a game.
Brilliant game. I can still play that today. The thing is, Mario and Donkey Kong games like that, they just don't get old.
Mario 64 was an incredible game. That was the first 3D game.
So the reason I'm talking about Donkey Kong 64 in relation to that console, to the 64, is because it holds the record for the most hours played on the console. Not sure what the record is, but it's a lot. So, the final N64 cartridge was actually made in 2002. Now, I didn't know this because I would have thought it would have been way back. To be honest, I think of
the life cycle of that was quite long.
When I think of the N64, I actually think of 70s and 80s. I don't know why, but it was created in 96,
97,
and the last cartridge that was made was 2002. But I think of it as a console that was made ages ago. I don't know what it is. I think it's because when I was born,
you've got it pre-PlayStation.
I think it's because when I was born, obviously, I was born in 97, so when I was growing up, that obviously looked like a relic, and I didn't know much about gaming then, so I was just all about the PlayStation 1.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so the final cartridge was actually Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, so you can play Pro Skater on the 64. The last major console to use cartridges as well. So we've talked about the first console to use cartridges, and we came full circle to the last one.
They
realised that you can't fit as much data on cartridges, and as soon as digital disc was released, that's when it switched over to that, because the amount of data you can use on those is so much better.
Yeah.
And the first disc was the PS1, wasn't there? The PS1 and Xbox. They utilised them. I think PS1 was first, not 100%.
I have.
Well, they used the black disc, didn't they? What was it called? Like a special.
It was just a CD. No, it wasn't anything special. It was just a CD.
Painted black.
So, you're wrong with what you said about the PlayStation.
What?
It wasn't the first console to use a CD player.
Dreamcast.
No, even before that. Are we finished with the 64, or can I put a little bit of 64 information in?
I'm not finished yet. Let me finish yours.
So before you go on, let me just throw this at you. In development, they were trying to create a Nintendo 64 data drive or disk drive, which was an attachment that goes on the bottom of a 64 that allowed you to play CD games. They never made it because the life cycle of the game ended before, but it was one of the only games to add an expansion pre-GameCube. Like GameCube was the one that I remember had like TVs attached and stuff. Like they really went for a modular system on the GameCube.
Okay, so let me finish then.
Right, I'm gonna go wee while you're talking.
This is not professional. It's gone for a wee, man.
It is, mate. It's not my fault. I need to pee. Is it?
Okay, so it had games like Mario, and they had really strict quality control standards for the game. So the games actually look like a professional standard. I know it doesn't look like it on screen because you're thinking, oh, the graphics are crap, but for that time, for 1996, the games were actually pretty high spec. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got. So hopefully George hurries up while he pees. We want a full black PS5. Surely that's got to come. I mean, why'd they release the white ones first? I've got a white PS4 Pro, and this PS4 Pro gets dirty so easy, man. Like, I prefer the black consoles because you can't see the dust and the grime that they develop over time. How's everyone doing in the chat then? Alpha's on 96 hours, man. We've had some cool people in here. We've had Rocky in here. Special guest Rocky. I wonder if he's still watching. Probably at work, to be honest.
Your resident relic is here. Hello, good sir.
Finally, George.
Professional peer. We should add regularly scheduled pee breaks in the podcast.
No, George. You should just go for a pee before we start. Like that.
Bro, I did, alright? Like half an hour before. Right. Are we done with 64s?
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm gonna
hang on,
blow
I've
your
just
goddamn
found
minds.
another 3 pages. No, I'm joking, George. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna blow your mind. 1991.
Mm-hmm.
There is a games console. Well, it's not even called a games console. It's called Entertainment System.
It's called a fridge.
It was the Philips CDI.
I was seeing this in my book. I scrolled past that and I thought, I'm not showing that.
Yeah. The reason why, it was the first console to utilize CDs.
Interesting.
This was before PlayStation. And because it was marketed as an entertainment system, it didn't sell as well as the PlayStation. It undersold, did terribly.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the only non-Nintendo produced console to have Nintendo produced games on it. Which is crazy. Like, Nintendo are so careful about their intellectual properties now. They wouldn't allow it again. They had games like Hotel Mario, which, no joke, looks like a fan-made game.
Did they sue the company for it?
It looks so bad.
Did they sue the company for it?
Hmm?
Did they sue the company for it?
No. Nintendo signed an agreement to let them use it.
Oh.
So it did. They had like a game called Link: The Face of Evil, and they all look terrible. Awful game quality, but if they'd have marketed their system better as a games console rather than a entertainment system, that could have outsold the PlayStation.
Yeah, but wasn't they all called entertainment systems back then?
Yeah, but not after the 64. The only things that were called entertainment systems were the NESs, and that was because the term games console hadn't really been coined then.
Yeah.
So after the SNES and the NES,
SNES.
Yeah, the SNES.
NES and the SNES.
The NES and the SNES,
SNES.
it all changed to games consoles or game systems or game blah blah blah. But they had shown their age by calling it the entertainment system rather than a console or games device. Games device? No one's ever called anything a games device. What am I chatting? Game system. Yeah, That's what I have on that. That was 1991.
How long was that, guys? Like 2 minutes. I'm stretching the podcast out, George. Just doing 2-minute slots.
You told me 10 minutes, and that was 10 minutes.
That was not 10 minutes.
I have more information about games than I do about consoles.
I'm excited for this one because this one's close to my heart, man. We're looking at the PS2. You know, I had to do, a newer console, but I didn't want to go PS5, PS4, PS3 because they're all quite new.
They're not really shaping. They're not shaping gaming history at the minute. They are just repetitions on previous.
The thing is, the PS2, for one thing, it's got so many features that make it iconic, but it is the biggest selling console in gaming history. You know that, don't you?
Yes.
200 million copies. 200 million PS2 sold.
Actually, that's
in
not
fact,
a lot
no,
compared
that's
to
wrong.
Some of the information.
1.5 billion copies. I've got that confused with another fact for later, but 1.5 billion PS2s were sold.
I was going to say, that didn't sound right.
And there were 3,874 titles on the PS2. Now imagine that today. If you think about it, each PS4 game, whatever, takes like 6 months to make. There's probably like 500 or something in a span of like 2-3 years.
It would have been longer than that in them days. 64 games took upwards of 2 years.
And it had nearly 4,000 titles.
PS1 would have also been around the same time frame. So I think PS2 maybe a year and a half.
And the reason this game console is like close to my heart is because like this was the first console I had brand new. The first one I opened on my birthday or Christmas as a kid. Like, I just remember getting the box, just being so happy with it. And look at its look. Like, I know that's a chunky one, but obviously they released the slim ones, and it just has a completely different, sleeker, smoother look to all the consoles before it. Like that, the look of that is so much better than an N64 or a GameCube.
This has got the
GameCube. The GameCube is kind of iconic though because it's a cube, but like that just looked so sleek and so modern, and with the black finish, it was beautiful, man. And obviously that iconic PS2 logo
it looked
written
sci-fi back in the day.
And plus, sci-fi. I've always said this, but the PS2 games were always the most fun to play, as I remember them. Like, I've been going back now and playing them, and they are a pain in the ass because it's so hard to jump and stuff.
You've been lied to
but in my head, like, I just remember these being. That's my head, not that. I just remember these games being so fun to play because obviously it wasn't like it did have online play, and that's another thing. It's one of the first consoles to have online play, but it was more focused on the story and enjoying the game, and it had all these side quests and missions and things like that that were just fun and made you want to play the game. And you could also save your data as well, which you could do on the PS1, but it was just it's such a fun console to play.
Integrated data, right? The good thing about PS2 was that it was modular. And then, modular data. You could switch and you can plug and play different storage files, which was insane.
I think also it's because like most of the games from the PS2 era were based on movies, which I know that's a terrible thing today. Like, it doesn't always work. Like, and you don't see as many games, based on movies. It's more the other way around. It's more movies based on games.
Yeah, I've got some examples on that later, but yes.
But that was really fun as well, especially as a kid. Like, you go and watch Incredibles. Next thing you know, there's a game there. You want to get it, you want to play it, spend like 40 hours on the game. Not 40 hours.
It would be the same time. Like, they'd make contracts and stuff to release them basically either a week before or the same time, so that you would get that like immediate hit of satisfaction of playing.
But I mean, the experience, everything about it really, the graphics, the controller was like, it was so nice to feel and to experience. I mean, now it's terrible because obviously we're used to these new
you
consoles.
don't have the rumble, right? On the PS2 there was no rumble.
Yeah, exactly. But it just
felt
really nice. Yeah, I've got one in my cabinet, but obviously we're used to a different kind of gaming experience. But back then, like, that was the shit. George, will you start picking stuff up, man?
Bro, it's show and tell. I'm showing you the PlayStation controller.
You're such a teacher, man. You just got all these props. You just like
the modular storage.
Look at the analog stick. If we zoom in, you can see it. That's that bit there.
Well, no, the thing with the modular storage, like,
George, I feel like this is my part of the podcast.
It is, but I would like to talk about modular storage. For stuff like, I know the 64 also had it, but there was a set amount of data you could store on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The 64 had an extra 4 gig of storage, depending on which attachment you put in. But for there to be 8 gigs on a thing which could hold that was 20 games at the time, right?
Think about the games you had on it as well, though. Simpsons Hit and Run, man. Can you think of a more iconic game than that? That was born on the PS2.
Yes, I can, and I will later.
He's probably going to go up with Simpsons Wrestling.
Is that a thing?
Believe it or not, George, the PS2 wasn't actually discontinued until 2013. They were still making games for it until 2013.
It blew my mind that I was as I was looking at PlayStation 3 games.
Well, I think it came out in what,
being released at PS2 at the same
or
time.
something. And the last game was 2013.
Sounds kind of right.
I always think of the PS3 coming out in 2005, but it didn't. It was 2008, wasn't it? I think this was 2003, 2002. I don't know, around that time.
PlayStation 1 was 2000.
I think that was 99. I think, George.
Yeah, 99 to 2005 or 6.
That's what I got this book for. Might as well use it.
Yeah, you've got the facts right there. I will fill time with modular storage talk.
Oh, March 4th, 2000.
What, 2 or 1?
2. Backwards compatibility as well. Interesting.
Yeah, that was a huge thing at the time. People were so worried about having to buy completely new copies of their game when that first released.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just iconic.
I mean, they still are now. They even still, I'm worried about having to repurchase the games that I have on PlayStation 4 for PlayStation 5 whenever
you're
I
broke,
get it.
Jordan. You just borrow all the games off me anyway, so it doesn't make any difference.
What do you mean?
So yeah, the PS2 sold 1.5 billion copies. Last game was produced in 2013. It was FIFA 13. You can play FIFA 13 on the PS2.
FIFA games, disgusting, man. I hate FIFA games, apart from them on the Wii.
Yeah. Also, it had an iconic startup screen. Now, when you turn them on and you see this logo, it's iconic.
Do you know what that means? Did you know
that these squares represent...
Here we go.
How many games are on the PS2 and the memory card, and how long they were played for, which I didn't know. So many people have different squares when they load up the console, which I had no idea. So you go around your mate's house, you'd be like, why does he have 42 squares and I have 3? And that's because he's played a lot more games and completed a lot more games. He's probably better at gaming than you. So
you're a loser.
You know. The PS2, it also had Netflix. Yeah, you could plug in a disc and it'd give you a Netflix. It allowed you to set up Netflix on the PlayStation 2. Because obviously it had online as well. But Netflix wasn't really a big company back then, but you could use it.
No, because Netflix at the time was...
It was both. It was a DVD CD, subscription, yeah. But it was also online like it is now, so it was a bit of both, I think.
I didn't think it was ever online until recently. That must have been my brain playing tricks on me. Unless I'm thinking that maybe Love Film or something was a thing at the time. Film as well. And you'd get CDs.
I think Netflix also
basically
did it. I think they was competing. But I used to love Film. I used to order games, complete them, and then send them back after a week. So, but I think they went out of business after a while. I think everyone just kept keeping the
people
the
would just keep the game.
And they wouldn't do anything. It's like sometimes I can't find DVDs of certain things because they're so rare. People will be listing them on eBay with Love Film on them. Well, sometimes you have to buy them because it's the only way possible to get the film.
Yeah.
Right. It's the best selling console in history. I've said that. You could play online. You know, I think it was the first time you could play online. I know I've said it multiple times, George, but I'm just reading off my notes, which I've wrote down.
I think it actually was.
That's how
it was the first you could play online.
You know, that's how iconic it is. I've had to write these things down twice. You could also play. You could also play DVDs on it. You know, so it's multi-purpose in every sense of the word.
So the PlayStation 1 could play music discs, but it couldn't play film.
Yeah.
Like, I remember using it as a CD player for about 2 years because I didn't have a CD
the
player at the time.
PlayStation, the way the PlayStations work and the things they can do is so odd because, like, you know, you can play PS1 games on the PS2, and on the PS3 you can only play PS1 games. But certain
Depending on
PS3s
which
you can play
PlayStation you
PlayStation
have, right?
1, 2, and 3.
PlayStation Fat you can do.
PlayStation 4, I don't think you can play
PS3.
any of them on, but you can play Blu-rays. And PS3 you can play Blu-ray. But yeah, it's good because it's multi-purpose. I don't think the Xbox lets you play DVDs, but I could be wrong.
I think it probably does. I think that because it reads CDs, right? The Xbox.
Maybe,
so
but I don't think
read
it's as good.
DVDs.
I think PS2 had better sounds, but it's just another feature to add to the arsenal. It also had Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
A classic.
And that sold 17 million copies. That's a lot of copies, boy.
That's a lot of copies.
That's a lot of copies. A lot of what, George?
Maybe just punch the monster.
That's what I was intending to do. That's what I thought was funny at that moment. But that's it, man. You can move on.
Here's mine. The Atari Links. Imagine, if you will, the look of a PlayStation Portable, PSP. I forgot what it was called in my head for a second. Like that sort of like long, sleek design.
Mm-hmm.
But in the year 1999, and with a full colour
Alfie's gone mad
backlit
for
display.
GTA, man.
Hmm?
Alfie's gone mad for GTA. The thing is, like, we should have done like a whole history of like every console. So we've just picked, like, randomly picked from different console generations and be like, oh, that's a good console. Let's talk about that, man. That seems interesting. And then we just randomly pick games as well.
The ones that I've got are the very first things. So this came out the year of the Game Boy, like the first Game Boy, right?
Well, some of mine are the first things as well.
Yeah, but like, listen, this thing had a full color screen as well as backlit display 10 years before the Game Boy Color came out. This thing, the same year as a Game Boy, like the chunky big.
It's basically like if we invented a console and it was as good as a PlayStation, and then it just never got recognised because the PlayStation overtook it.
No. The reason why it never got recognised is it had a much smaller game library than the Game Boy. Because the Game Boy was Nintendo, they had access.
That's
to
the thing with
Nintendo
gaming,
games.
isn't it? Like, that's another thing. Like, these days, it's so important to have a really good arsenal of good games.
Even if they're not exclusives, but being able to get the licensing for them.
Even then, it was so important
sales.
because if you've got Pong and another console's got Mario, you just ain't gonna compete, mate. And it's the same like when Sonic came into the market, like that just decimated everything.
It's really annoying because this thing was more high tech than the Game Boy by 10 years, which is incredible. Like, this was 1999 when most people didn't even know backlit color displays.
It just made me laugh, George, when you pulled that face. You said, "This is incredible."
This is incredible.
I can't concentrate now. You threw me off.
It really is. It like Game Boy didn't even like the most things that Game Boy had at the time was the Game Boy printer and the Game Boy camera, which were also really cool things.
Game Boy had a printer,
but they looked garbage.
Not necessarily the more games the better outfit. The better quality games, the more fun games.
Yes,
better.
absolutely. Depending on what you can license is absolutely like the best thing. I actually have one more that I forgot about on here. So that's me done with the.
Is that the whole facts for that whole system? What system is this called again, George? I think
the Atari Links.
The Atari Links.
Okay. And it looks.
I seen that actually in the book, and I thought it said the Atari Linux.
Yeah, I know. I misread it at first as well. But I've also gone for like my last one because I forgot that I'd done 3 and I've done 4. This is a garbage console. This is a garbage console. This one. This is the Nintendo Virtual Boy in 1995.
I knew he was going to bring this up, George.
Thing.
You never shut up about this. This was the first VR, wasn't it?
It was the first VR. It was
that
heavy.
didn't take off because it was
hurt your eyes.
Way before its time.
It didn't have a color display.
That's the thing. Some consoles are way before their time and they just don't take off. And then 20 years later, someone's like, "What's that thing that was invented 20 years ago that didn't work?" Let's make that.
Well, the thing is,
better.
They didn't sell many copies because they were struggling to market it as virtual reality.
You
Not
should
because
never
it didn't
name
work.
anything virtual and then a gender as well.
Well,
I mean, like Game Boy
it's-
works, but when you call something a virtual boy, I don't think
No, the reason why it's called a Virtual Boy is because it's got the same components as a Game Boy, just built into this chunky ass headset. But like, it hurt your neck, it hurt your hands to hold it,
I've never used one.
and it had 22 games in the library because no one bought it because they couldn't market it correctly.
I think I had
because they
something.
had no idea how to market.
I had something that
something
looked
virtual.
like it was not VR, but like a Move controller for the PS1.
The weird one
It looked
thing,
really
right?
weird. It looked like when you had it plugged in, you just looked like you had loads of wires coming out your arms.
Oh no! Oh, you mean the glove for the
Yeah.
the power glove for the NES? That thing is
I don't think
incredible.
I don't
love
think it
that
was
so
a
much.
power glove. It was something for a PS1, I think, but it was just really weird.
Well, let's just take a hot second to talk about the power glove. That thing sucked. It is
You
the
know,
worst controller they've
I
ever
remember
made,
the power
but
glove.
It looks cool.
You know what it is? It's the movie, The Wizard.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
makes
yeah,
it
exactly.
cool.
Yeah.
Because he wears the power glove and it just becomes.
And he's like beeping
Right,
away on his
okay.
sleeve, and that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. But it was terrible. Like
The coolest thing
controlling.
you've ever seen at 5 years old. Now it's like
Exactly.
it's pure
No,
rubbish.
dude, I would kill for a power glove, man.
Cost
That
a
thing is
fortune
cool
now.
as like, imagine that with a HTC Vive or whatever. You've got your headset on and you've got a goddamn glove that did all the controls for you. That is cool still. I hate everything you ever stood for if you don't think that is cool.
Yeah, but you'll be like bloody Scarlet Witch going.
Exactly, and you're telling me that isn't the coolest thing you've ever imagined? Being able to do magical shit with your hands and it actually do stuff. But back to the Virtual Boy.
Magical
After that
shit
small
with your
interlude of
hands.
absolute garbage.
George loves
Um,
doing magical shit with his hands.
So they couldn't market it correctly because they had no idea how to describe virtual reality at the time. Not even just that, like their tagline was, "You have to experience it for
I have to
yourself."
drink more Monster when George starts speaking in case I fall asleep.
That cannot be a decent tagline.
You cannot
They
what?
had 22 games, and
You
the
can't
only
what,
color
George?
it was in, black and red. You'd get blaring red light directly
What
into your
did you
eyeballs
say?
about this far away.
What did you say their marketing slogan was? The marketing.
You have to play it to understand it. It was something garbage like that.
You have to see it to believe it. That's
No,
the spin
it
that
wasn't
went
see it
for.
to believe it.
But it's
like,
a similar kind of slogan, isn't it? Play it to.
yeah, well, the thing is, the see it to believe it thing works because, like, at
Makes
least you can
sense.
see it. But this is a brand new technology
Mhm.
that hurt your eyes to look at, hurt your neck to wear, because it's like this, and it's got like a long pole down the middle that you have to like counterbalance every second.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had games like Mario Tennis, and they hurt to look at.
Is that you done now, George?
That's me done.
Alright, so
That was
moving on to
1995.
iconic games.
Games.
Game to the game.
I put a lot more effort into this than I did.
You know what we should have done? We should have talked about gaming slogans when you start up game. To the game.
They don't even call. They don't do that anymore, do they?
Yeah,
That's
but that was
stuck in
iconic. I used to
PlayStation
love
2.
that. Every time you load it up,
EA Sports.
to the
It's in
game.
the game.
I always think it says
Like
to
that-
the game. It's like a, what's the saying? What's the thing called? Something you think happened but didn't. The Kennedy effect or something. The Nelson Mandela effect. Mandela
What
effect.
the hell are you on about?
When you think something was something else. No.
Are you okay, mate? You having some sort of meltdown? Is your brain not working because I was talking too much about a Virtual Boy?
I'm gonna find out what it's called, George, because you know.
Okay, you do that while I talk about GoldenEye.
No. I'm
Oh.
starting on the game, George.
But you started last time.
What it's called?
EA Sports. It's in the game. So that's how you know you're playing a retro game, when it does the EA Sports logo in full. I don't think so, Alfie. I don't think he means the
Yeah, it's a
factor effect.
Mandela effect, George, where you remember something slightly different. So I remember EA Sports to the
Cheers,
game.
Ghost!
Whereas you remember it as
appreciate
EA Sports, it's in the game. So that is the Nelson Mandela effect. Which I've just added. I've just added Mandela effect to the Mandela effect because I called it the Kennedy effect.
You called it the Nelson Mandela effect. You fully added on a whole thing.
Well, you said you alright as if it didn't like exist. Like I could be spitting straight facts, you still be like, "You're good, mate. You're good.
You're right, hon. You're right, hon. You're right."
So iconic games. Iconic games.
Iconic. You frozen on my screen, but I think that might be my computer.
Okay,
oh, there you
so
right,
I'm
cool.
starting off with a very iconic game, and it is. Can you guess what I'm gonna bring up?
If it isn't Goldeneye, if it's Goldeneye, I'll kick you in the goddamn knees.
It is Go Indiana Jones. Well, it's not. It was called Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it was basically the first ever video game inspired by a movie. So this is what spawned it all. This is what spawned all the...
E.T. That is the game that made E.T. happen.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and E.T. didn't really work out. It got buried in dumps and stuff. I hope George's going to talk about that one.
I'm not. I didn't.
Okay.
I
Well, we'll say that for another
We can talk
podcast.
about it a little bit.
But yeah, so Raiders of the Lost Ark was apparently the first ever video game that was inspired by a movie. So that spawned all the PS2. That spawned all the PS2 movie games and all the other movie games. You know, all the Bond games. Which the Bond games were successful. And George is going to get onto that next. So this actually really works. Like, how does this work so well, George? I've started with the first ever video game inspired by a movie, and then you're next talking about Bond, a video game inspired by a movie.
Well, the only reason they got the licensing for that was because it was LucasArts, right? Who made the game? They specifically made the game rather than it being an out.
Well, yeah, because I think Lucas went to him LucasArts, and they went and said like, we want a game made, and we'll give you like, I think they gave him like 3 months or something to make it. That's why it looks like that. But that's what all games look like then. But it was pure garbage, I think. Although I don't know, I think this is actually a popular game, to be fair. But then, obviously, as you say, it spawned games like E.T., which I think were made by the same people and it didn't work.
That bad. That looks like a decent platformer, which is what all games were until like GoldenEye.
It's trash compared to today, but then to that standard, it was good.
I mean, even then, that's pretty good against like Donkey Kong standards, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's quite cool. I like it.
Right, so it was invented in 1982. Monsters repeating on me. And it was on the Atari 2600. You know, I think I actually seen this online. You know, I was going to buy it just to have it in the cabinet. So it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It actually required the person to play with 2 controllers, apparently. And it was designed by
not the only game that did that.
Stock
That's not the only game that did that. So
yeah,
there were anti-piracy methods.
That's all I've got on that game. And what makes it iconic is what we said earlier, the first video game inspired by a movie. Right, you can carry on now, Joe.
Can I speak about anti-piracy things? So there are certain games that have anti-piracy things where you need to unplug from one port and put into another, or play with 2 controllers, or stuff like that. That unless you had the like
something you make in school.
Games,
but Alfie, we're talking about 1982, mate. You won't be able to make that school then. It's like Photoshop. If you go back to the 80s and you're
Photoshop
producing,
was also in the 80s.
Huh?
Photoshop existed in the 80s. It was
terrible. It was industrial software. Like if you was creating images like you do now in Photoshop, you'd be like a world class photographer, mate, or a world class artist. You know, you'd be working on big budget films because back then they didn't have technology like we have now. Like even if they had Photoshop, it was in its very basic form. They didn't have computers that could generate a game like this in like. You build that in ICT in like an hour.
You could build that in goddamn Flash.
But back then,
that could be a Flash game.
Back then, it was a completely different world. That's kind of what we're getting at, Alfie.
These are the precursors to.
You can't make that exact game in school though, because you get done for copyright, mate.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm gonna go back to anti-piracy real quick because it's really interesting. Back in 80s, 70s, there were games that most of the information was in the game's manual. So it would,
you know what I wanted to talk about?
If you were to pirate a game...
I seen this on a TV show, but they used to have, like, whole offices of people that used to phone up for video game support. You'd be like, I'm stuck on level 4, and they used to play games.
No, that's mind blowing to us now, right? Because
I wish that would be my dream job, man.
People used to make millions selling walkthroughs.
So that's like
selling page by page in magazines.
Basically, that's Trophy Hunter back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. That was so cool.
I seen it on that Netflix documentary about games, and they're really good to watch. You should definitely watch them. But like, they would sit in an office, play games all day, and someone would ring them up. They'd have all these things written down. They'd just play games, and they'd ring them up. They'd be like, "I'm stuck on level 82. I need some help. What do I do?" And he'd be like, "Press X, jump over the barrel. You know, kill the donkey. Swivel to the right as a secret door." And then you basically pay by the minute on the phone.
So the thing is, like, we watched Ready Player One. I don't know if we watched it together, but we've both seen it, right? Mm-hmm. How in one of the games they talk about Easter eggs and it being the first game to have Easter eggs.
How did they do that movie? Like, that has so many like copyrighted things from so many franchises. I mean, you got
Spielberg. It's Spielberg. Most of the stuff is owned by Spielberg. So you've got Jurassic Park, you've got E.T., you've got all this. Iron Giant, I think, is also a Spielberg film.
There is still licenses outside of that.
Oh yeah, but they're easy to get hold of. I think like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was quite an easy licensing. Once you've got
even
so
in
many
the
things,
book, like how did that guy get away with it in the book?
Because it wasn't.
Did he reference them? He must have referenced them.
Either they were referenced or they weren't direct. Like
you see on YouTube for free now.
Ripped.
Mhm.
So that's cool. But as I was saying, like when piracy was rife in the gaming industry, there'd be most of the information would be in a book.
You're saying when it was rife, George. It's still rife now, but it's not the video game companies that get done for it. It's mainly the consumers. Exactly. It's me and you who are playing the game. And then a song will play in the background. Next thing you know, our stream, because now stream is a thing, will get taken down or we'll get charged for it.
That's not piracy. That's
It's copyright. Copyright and piracy are a bit different, but they're kind of a similar thing, basically.
So there were ways to like do it. Like
you're getting punished for using someone else's thing, basically.
Yeah. So like back when PC games were on floppy disks and stuff, you could just copy the floppy disk over and just photocopy the thing, and that would be a free game to someone. Mm-hmm. Now it's a lot harder because it's still not really difficult, but it is harder because you can take the BIOS and the data from it and stuff. Mm-hmm. But you'd have to run it on certain software. You could just plug and play floppy disks from one computer to another and it would work. So they had stuff like you'd need a certain thing or a code that was in the game on the case of the game, or they're like, from what I remember watching, because I was watching something about it the other day, there's like a little viewfinder that came with one game, and you'd put it on the screen and it would tell you what the code was because it would decode it.
Do you know what I find interesting?
On the screen.
I know this has nothing to do with games, but I keep seeing these things going around now in like supermarkets and stuff, where you just literally get a card with like 10 movies on. Like you might get like a Vin Diesel card, and then you just go home and like scan it, the QR code, and then you got all them movies. Like that's such a different way to do it.
Yeah, well, you got to imagine with QR codes as well. Like, unless they have to be activated, which I assume they do because that's like game gift cards and stuff, right? They have to be activated, otherwise they could be stolen.
It saves on plastic.
Well, yeah, if they're not having to print, if everything's digital now, the only thing that's going to be an issue is
bad for me because I love DVDs, but I've just seen
the servers.
I was like, that is a pretty good business idea, to be honest, because most people want all things digitally anyway. So, and you're still physically buying something. You're buying the card.
Yes, absolutely. Back to games. GoldenEye, baby.
Can I just say, George, I feel like 45 minutes of the podcast has been me talking about stuff and you've done about 15 minutes worth.
Listen, when it comes to GoldenEye...
And you spent 3 hours on the research.
I don't mess about.
Hang on, is it my turn now?
You've just spoken.
It's because you threw. You know what it is? It's because you threw in the anti-piracy laws. And it's supposed to go as I know one thing, you know one thing, but you're just throwing in extras.
The reason why I threw that in was because I was just watching the Modern Roadie last night.
You know what it's going to be next? You're just going to be like, oh, can we just talk about the display stands? Can we just talk about underneath the consoles?
GoldenEye. 007, GoldenEye, Nintendo 64.
How does a GoldenEye theme tune go, George? The man with the golden gun.
That's clearly not it.
No, it's not. How does it go? GoldenEye.
That's Spider-Man.
And they crumble. It's kind of like Skyfall, but like...
GoldenEye does whatever. No, I can't remember, man.
Come on, George. You must be able to remember you spent like 5,000 hours on the game.
No, because it doesn't have the... It has music from Bond films, but I don't think it has the GoldenEye soundtrack.
I'm gonna search it up.
Makes me want to play it out loud, to play it real quiet in the ear.
Yeah, it was. It's called GoldenEye.
Yeah, it's called GoldenEye, but I just don't know how it goes.
See the reflections on the water more than darkness in the depths.
Oh,
I don't really remember that song, George, to be honest.
I do.
Like most Bond films, like when I think of Skyfall, I always think of Skyfall and they crumble. But
as well as the new one with Billie Eilish, right?
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish, yeah.
No
Big
time to die.
Or,
to be honest, the Sam Smith one was freaking
one of them had the
man.
White Stripes, or Jack White.
The Sam Smith one was terrible. It's like the writings on the wall. Something like that.
The thing was that worked well with the feel of the film, though. Like as a standalone song, not great, but with the
it's always had a really good
we're talking
like
about games.
Composer or like musician to the theme song, man, to Bond. It always has to be like someone really, you know, up there. I think that's why the Bond films do so well, because you know you have like massive artists.
Shirley Bassey, Garbage did one, Chris someone,
and then you had
one.
Paul McCartney,
Adele,
Tina Turner did one. I think she did.
No,
Am I thinking of somebody else?
I think you're thinking of whoever I just said a second ago.
Shirley Bassey.
Shirley Bassey.
I'm pretty sure Tina Turner did the one. I think she did the one with Paul McCartney.
I don't remember, man. Anyway, games. This is a game stream. We're talking about video games.
That's why game
I'm
is
talking
in the background.
About GoldenEye.
Yeah, see? We're talking about GoldenEye, see?
So.
What was that, George?
Shut up. I'm having a moment. I'm reminiscing about GoldenEye and how it's a really great game.
Someone get George some help, please. Have some help on
R4. He needs some milk. It was the first game.
The first ever game
I played. Yeah, it was the first game. No, it was the first game my family played together. Mm-hmm. Like previously, we'd done like I'd been playing like Legend of Zelda in a different room, and they'd be watching.
They remade
TV.
it though, didn't they? Is it a remaster, the PS3 version? I think it is.
Yeah, but it was garbage. They completely remade it and ruined the controls and all that. But that's neither here nor there, because that is not 007 on the 64.
Mm-hmm.
So, every now and again, we will still go back and play this game.
So heavily in this podcast. How was the N64 ended up being featured so heavily in this podcast?
Because it's such a good console.
Why was it called
right
the 64?
In our age range as well.
I should know this. I should have researched it. But why was it called the N64?
It had 64 bits of RAM or something. I can't remember. It's something technical. So every now and again, we will still like play GoldenEye or The World Is Not Enough on it because
he uses that so much, so didn't they? Like call something 64. Like on the screen, you got Atari 2600. Like now, they start from like 1.
The Xbox just like jumped to.
I don't know what the phones are doing now because it's gone from Samsung S10 to S20. So you know, it just doesn't make sense.
Who knows, man? They doesn't make it up. So this game was released in 1997. Our
The
birth
year
year.
I was born.
On the 25th of August.
Oh,
This game is
that's
the
my
same age
birth
I am.
month.
And it is
20
aged like a
days,
fine wine
20
while I
days.
have aged like milk.
20
And
days
turned
after
to
I was born,
cheese.
George.
Yeah, I know. It's aged like a fine wine and we've aged like cheese. Like milk.
I wouldn't say it's aged like a fine wine.
It's still a great game.
I think it has
You haven't
aged
played it,
like
have you?
sour milk, to be honest.
You haven't played it, have you?
No.
No, it's incredible.
I did play some of the
It
other
is
one
the
games.
precursor.
I like the PS2 ones.
It's a precursor to every single.
I think it's the
Sure.
World Is Not Enough is the one I played, and just like
I really liked
playing that 2-player with the mini helicopters and the mini cars and stuff. That was way before Black Ops and the R6Ds and stuff. And you
So
just be
that
killing
doesn't exist.
your friend.
That doesn't exist on the 64.
You just be killing your friend in
The
a
World
mini
Is Not Enough
helicopter.
on the
man. It's
64
brilliant.
is.
It doesn't even make sense
Great.
because really the game shouldn't have a tiny little helicopter that could blow you up with massive rockets, but it just works so well.
So on the 64, it doesn't have that. You have like rocket launchers or whatever, like you would on regular, on any of a like 64 game, because the data was limited and the file size had to be quite small. And the colors used like a lot of RAM. However,
Not a rare.
it was developed by Rare.
Developed
company
by
that made-
Vicarious Games. So you just said developed, that's what I heard.
Oh, okay.
Developed
So it
by
was developed by Rare.
Vicarious Studio.
Gregarious. We watched Ready Player One.
Oh man, why did I not
Um,
put Crash Bandicoot as one of my games? Oh, why did it?
So Rare did Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong and Star Fox. They were known for platforming games. And this was the first game they developed in 3D by a completely amateur design team. They've either only worked in 2D or they were brand new to the gaming industry, full stop. There was quite a small team. So the game follows you playing as 007.
It's weird
As we
how many
attempt-
people used to make games. Like you'd have a team of like 10 people, and now if you
Yeah,
look at
really
GTA
small,
5
now
or
it's
Red Dead
hundreds and
Redemption, it's
thousands.
literally it's like 100,000 people or something. It's mental. Do you think about it? Everything in the game is, it's created digitally, so there's no physical objects. So people have to obviously create it.
Yeah. I want to talk about that a little bit in the gaming news a little bit later. I've got some information about some.
I hope that's you
Shady
saying you're
shit.
tired and not you saying you're bored. No, because you don't need to watch, mate. I mean, me and George will happily just talk to ourselves for 3 hours.
I've been just chatting pure bollocks, to be honest.
Because we'll be watching this back
So
in a
you
couple of
play,
years' time.
you
thinking,
play as James
hilarious.
Bond as you tried to save the world yet again, like in every James Bond film.
Play as Bond as you try to save the world
James
yet
Bond.
again.
So because it was a
I'll take a
brand new
martini,
design
shaken, not stirred.
team- This man, I'm gonna kill him.
Design team.
If he ever winds up dead, I best not be.
You'll be in the frame, mate, because you said that in the podcast 5 years before.
Yeah, when you end up murdered in
Use
2
that
years'
as
time, and
evidence,
I'm
man,
like,
the
oh
murderer
god,
of this
why did I
day,
say that
actually.
online? So because it was a new team, there was no hype about this game. It was like low expectations from the get-go. It became the third best-selling game on 64. What are you doing, you weirdo? The only games that were higher selling than it were Super Mario 64, incredible game, and Mario Kart. Now, this game had the creator, or the lead director of Nintendo. They wanted to make an edit at the end where you all shook hands with the villains.
Why?
Because
That's not what
obviously
Bond-
you have because
that's
it's,
not what
because it's
Bond does.
Miyamoto in it. No, I know.
Go, mate.
But the thing was, this is Nintendo. This was the first time they'd done like a game.
You know, I was just thinking
Like
about it,
this.
George. Doo-doo. Doo-doo.
I know, I have that in my head like 24/7.
And that's on, isn't that in GoldenEye at the start? A doodle, and then he shoots, doesn't he shoot, and then the blood comes down. No other respectable podcast will sit there humming Bond tunes. How many
I mean,
times
you've
have
clearly
we
not seen
sung
cold ones,
during
man.
this podcast?
So, this pinnacle of gaming history, right? It was originally intended as a side-scroller for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It was supposed to be a side-scroller where you were like on, like, do you know how in games there's like called a rail system where it moves you at a set speed and you've got to shoot like stuff? That's what it was originally intended as.
Yeah.
But they then decided to go for the 3D element after watching Super Nintendo do so well. No, that's not right. After watching Super Mario do so well in like a 3D space. So they had to completely redesign how the game was going to work in like, I think it was made in 2 years, which is like insane. It was
What
the
year
second
was the
game they'd
Die
ever
Hard
done in
game
3D
made?
space.
What year was the Die Hard game made?
I've got no idea. I didn't even know there was a Die Hard game,
97
to be
or
honest.
something. It's quite a good game, I think.
So this game, right? It pioneered
This game.
first-person shooters in a console setting, right? Because you play like Time Crisis or whatever at the arcade, but having a first-person shooter in your house, this was the first time that had happened.
What about Space Invaders?
Space Invaders not first-person, is it? It's third-person, if that, I think.
Yeah, potentially.
So
Definitely.
it paved the way for future FPSs. Like, you wouldn't have COD without this game, because that's how influential it was at the time.
So
It is
you wouldn't have COD without
frequently,
Bond.
and I say this, frequently cited as one of the best video games of all time. It is. It's incredible.
I've never heard
So
that.
it grows. You've not heard it in
Where'd you get
most
that fact
polls.
from?
It is in the top 10, like IGN, PC Gamer.
We should have really
all
spoke
the stuff.
about Call of Duty.
Well, no, because this is a James Bond. This is the segment I'm talking about, good sir. Don't interrupt me.
Is this your James Bond villain impressions we got going on now?
No, this is my Charles Dance impression.
Do
who
not
is
interrupt
the-
me, kind sir. We're talking about Bond. James
Leave me to my
Bond.
lotions and my potions.
You know, every time I think about Bond, like the older Bonds, I just think of Alan Partridge. And he's like, we've got GoldenEye. And then he starts acting them all out because the video's been taped over. And he's like, and he shoots her. He starts like rolling across the floor and stuff. Have you seen that?
No.
Go
I
watch
think I've
it,
seen the bit
George.
where he's rolling across the floor, but I haven't
Alan
seen.
Partridge. Because he's got a box of Bond videos and someone's taped over his favourite Bond films. So he's explained the whole thing. I could just imagine you doing that at a dinner party. Like, bloody hell, my dad's already taped over bloody GoldenEye. So you just start acting it.
GoldenEye on
Everybody's
VHS.
I'm right.
I like how it always goes. That was my favourite thing about VHS, is how it, like, when you paused it, it would still be moving.
Yeah, but
So
the best
the
thing
game
about
cost
it was
$2
the fact that
million
you could take the
to
VHS
make.
out, put it back in, it would still be at the same place. But you'd have to rewind it every time you bloody wanted to watch it again.
I know, that was class though.
Imagine
like
that.
the rewinding
I
those.
could not be bothered to do that today.
Is what it would sound
If
like
it was just
went
videos, I'd never watch a film today because I couldn't be asked. I mean, how lazy I am today. I would not be bothered like rewinding the films.
back. No, I know. I'd watch it once and then just leave it. It was produced for $2 million.
You know, Blockbuster had a big problem with that because people used to hand in the games that hadn't been rewinded back. I think you froze again, George.
I'm going to kill you. Stop interrupting me with your garbage. So, it was produced for $2 million,
Yes.
and it got a gross income of 250 million back, which was huge because the film only sold. What are you doing? Look what you've done to me, you forehead. Stop this.
Hurry on, George.
Oh my god. What are you doing to me, you little goblin? Don't zoom in my teeth. I don't even like my teeth. Like the film only grossed 350 million, I think.
Thanks, Cam.
Even though the cost of the film was way more. Anyway. It got 4 awards from the Academy of Interactive Arts, and it got a BAFTA in 1998. My facts for this game are: it was originally intended as a side-scroller. The team was comprised of amateurs. There was supposed to be 4 James Bonds in the game, but at the last minute, they had to pull 3 of them. What have you done? Hang on, let me see if I can do this right. Hang on. They couldn't get the licensing from Sean Connery. Sean Connery wouldn't give them permission to use his likeness, so he got axed from the game. They had a 1v1v1v1, first to 100, and whoever won was the character that got added in, and it was played by the devs. What are you doing, you absolute weirdo?
I'm just listening to you talk about GoldenEye, George.
Most of the game is in black and white, just with certain parts painted in color, because that was the easiest way to save space.
You stop getting distracted.
Oh, I wonder why I'm getting distracted. It sounds like somebody's messing with my goddamn face. All of the NPCs are rare employees that got scanned into the game. There are 5. Mm-hmm. One of them is the lead director, and the rest are all just randos. Yep. The multiplayer mode, which it is like most famous for, was created in a month by one guy. But he didn't tell the game developers he was doing it. He just did it on his own, and just at the last minute put it in the game. And because the game was already like a month overdue, Nintendo just went, and just let it go in the game. And they then pushed the game with a multiplayer made by one man. This was the only game, the only James Bond game made by Rare. But that wasn't because the James Bond the franchise hated it. Even Nintendo liked the game. They even wanted to push for more, but Rare were like, "No, we've done one. We don't need to do another one." So they only did one James Bond game.
Yeah. But there has been hundreds of James Bond games.
That is my TED Talk. Thank you.
There's been a lot of James Bond games that have followed though, but just by different companies, yeah.
Yeah, and you can always tell because they're never quite as good as GoldenEye or The World Is Not Enough. Like, those two really pushed the boundary of like a licensed game. They did really well as licensed games.
Is that all on GoldenEye now?
That's all on GoldenEye, my guy.
So now, everyone in chat is going to love this. Because you guys have been asking me for so long playing Minecraft. So I thought, we're talking about iconic games, yeah. So it has to be Minecraft. Iconic. I know you're just going to use that as an excuse to mess around. You're for the rest of the podcast, man. So, Minecraft is, it's been on every console ever. It was so different. I mean, if you think about it, when Minecraft was created, it was sort of a backward step. Because you had 3D games, and then you've gone back to, block form. It was
like a step back from...
But it works.
The reason why it was a huge step back was games were pushing for high poly games.
Exactly.
Most of the realistic games they were pushing for were as high as polygons as you can get into one scene, the most detailed background you can get. That's what made games sell, is that it was realistic. And then stepping back to this,
and think
works.
Minecraft has so many good points about it. I mean, it's infinite. You could play Minecraft for the next 100 years, and you still be able to do new things in the game. You can build whatever you want. It has so many different modes. I think it's the first game, in new gen, that actually kept updating itself multiple times. Before that, games wouldn't really do updates very often, but because Minecraft was updating its game every year, most games were just having a 1 year lifespan, whereas Minecraft, all the other game companies were like, hang on, this game's lasting for years, and the company still keeps putting money in it. And
so the reason why was because the game was never officially released as a game, right? It was always in open
think
beta
about
until
how
recently.
many other like indie games have been released like that now, like Fall Guys and all those kind of games. Like a lot of those started off with beta, and also Fortnite. So Fortnite took Minecraft's blueprint really, because it released a free mode.
The thing about Fall Guys, that game's kind of died off because that did feel like a fad. Like, I know that there are still people playing it, and it's still a really fun game.
Where would we be without Minecraft and these continuous updates? You wouldn't have an update every week on Fortnite because they won't bother. 5-10 years ago, a game would be updated maybe once a year if you're lucky. Like Black Ops, I think that was updated once, or in fact it was updated 4 times, but that was just to bring in the DLCs.
DLCs, right? Yeah.
You know, now COD will be updated every couple of weeks, so. And that's
which is kind of annoying because I have got limited space.
You know, it's like Minecraft is like immersing yourself in a different world. I mean, you got languages, you got thousands of characters. You know, it's like its own little world, and it literally is like, you know, it's based on the real world. And you got, you wouldn't think if you told me 20 years ago, oh, this game, kids mining and digging for dirt and diamonds and stuff, you'd be like, nah, fam, that's not going to be popular.
And it's one of the most popular games of today, right?
And it's one of my favourite games as well.
Child audiences.
I've been playing it like since like 2009, since it come out, and I'm still playing it, and it's going crazy. And a lot of influential YouTubers and stuff started on Minecraft, so it's like even iconic to me. Like it's a really special game for me, especially as my YouTube channel was launched from this game. You know, playing this game blew my channel up, basically. Not massively.
This is the game that really like made us play together, right? It was this doing pixel art after Ark. Like this is what.
But I never wanted to do pixel art. It was just George that wanted to do it. I was never been into that. But that's the thing. I
know, but it was enjoyable.
It's
right?
got something for everybody.
Us...
Like it's one of the only games in today's generation where Fortnite does it and some other games, but it's like back in the day you had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, right, and you could create your own maps on there.
Or skate.
Yeah, and you could create your own maps on there, and they'd be endlessly fun. Minecraft does that, but like next level, because like people create their own modes, create their own games. You know, pixel art is only a thing because people created it, basically. I don't think Minecraft.
The reason why it does so well at that is because it was a Java game, right? So Java's a lot easier to mod on PC than most other platforms.
So yeah, I mean, it was different, it was new, it took a bold step. It didn't go for the 3D high res, you know, game. It went for, let's just make it fun, let's make it infinite, let's do as many things as we can, and yeah, let's try something new, and it worked. And did you know, guys, it was actually created in 6 days. The original game was created in 6 days. And then obviously it's been updated multiple times since then, like thousands of times or whatever, but it was actually created in 6 days, which is mental. And then it was obviously later on sold to Microsoft. So cube-like structures. But also it's a game that can be played across generations. I go on Twitch, I'll see like a granddad who's like 90 playing the game. And then there's like a kid that's like,
you said
being introduced.
There isn't very much a famous grandma that plays nothing but GTA and just
it's the same thing, but like you wouldn't expect
on a much wider scale. Yeah,
you wouldn't expect it to work in Minecraft, but I think anyone who touches this game like instantly finds something within it and falls in love with it because it's got something for everyone. It expresses your creativity.
Until recently, right? It wasn't actually classed as a game because it didn't technically have an end, which is why the Ender Dragon was added. So
that's another thing I was going to talk about. Like it is infinite. Like you say, it doesn't have an ending. It can go on for 1,000,000 years. You know what I mean? Like most games do have an end point.
Well, the thing is, they couldn't legally call it a game until it had an end point. I think is why the Ender Dragon is a thing and why the credits roll after that.
Yeah, but no other game would take that bold step and say, look, we were going to make a game where you can go on infinitely. But the thing is, you can't really because you build so much and then your PlayStation will just get fried, which is probably not going to happen to me eventually. But yeah.
That's not limitations on that's console limitations. That is not limitations on the software itself.
Another thing that makes Minecraft like such an iconic game is the fact that it's used in education. There's an education edition.
Yeah,
you know,
I remember playing it in school. Even
You know, one of my A-level
when I
art
was in sixth
projects.
form.
One of my A-level art projects for sixth form. I actually went up to the teacher and I was like, I see all these maps being built in Minecraft. They said, "What do you want to do for your final project?" And I was like, "I want to play Minecraft, build a world on it." I didn't get to do it, it was actually good because it would have took me like 10 years. But I expressed it to him and I was like, you know, it's actually used in education, and they was like fully on board with it. They just said it would take too long and it didn't really.
They use it now to do education on electronics, right? On simple logic.
Exactly.
Electronics.
If you think about it, everything in that game's educational, like leather, you know, how you get leather, how you mine, all the different things in it, all have educational elements. Even getting wool from sheep, right? Like, kids know where leather comes from because they play Minecraft. You know what I mean? Like, they learn so much from it. Yeah. So it's really good.
I don't think it was ever intended for the education purposes, but because it did get picked up as an educational thing, like that has blown it huge on like kids like wanting to play this game and parents want their kids to play this game.
If you think about it as well,
it is educational.
When you talk about intellectual property, like this game done so many collabs so early on, like 2009, 2010, like they was having map packs and skins. Like this basically is the first iteration of skins in a way, or one of them, and they were doing collabs with everyone. Star Wars, Power Rangers, all sorts of different properties, you know. And now we see that in Fortnite. So again, Fortnite has actually took a lot from Minecraft when you think about it.
Fortnite, I mean, nothing is ever new, right? You always take ideas from somewhere, even if you don't.
We really should have discussed Fortnite as well, because that is a really influential game. I mean, when you think about it, it's done so many things right, and it's like,
cherry picked the best parts of every game.
You think about it,
which is
nowadays it's the games that you don't expect to blow up, that you don't expect to be big, that actually are the most influential. I mean, Minecraft was never meant to be how big it is today. It was never meant to be on 100 million consoles.
And then God rested. And then Lord not rested on the 8th day.
And Fortnite as well. They didn't expect that to blow up like that. But it did. And they've run with it. They've injected money into it.
Well, the thing was, the BR genre was never a thing until Minecraft, right? Yeah. Like, Minecraft did Hunger Games, was it? The first iteration of BR? Yeah. Like, there'd been BR before, but they'd never been big.
I mean, there's even...
It wasn't until Minecraft.
There's even
and then
languages
it went to H1Z1
and everything.
And then other stuff.
There's even languages and everything in the game. Like, it's so... The world building is so good. Like, they've thought of everything. Like, it's so developed and so thought about. And, like, when you look at it, you think, oh, man, like, it's cartoonish and stuff. But, like, you play it and it's just so fun. You can just express yourself and it's really thought out. Like, everything's well integrated. You know what I mean? And we do see that with a lot of games now, like Skyrim. And I really thought you was going to mention Skyrim. I feel like that might come up.
I wasn't. The reason why I'm not going to do Skyrim is because that is too big of a thing to talk about in one podcast.
Well, that's what we need, though. That's why I decided to talk about Minecraft, because I could talk about this forever. But I am going to keep it short because we decided we was only going to have 10 minutes slots on these. And lastly, I mean, I could go on about this all day, but it is it is the best-selling game of all time. 200 million copies. That's where 200 million come from earlier.
Yeah.
And really, that's because it's on every console ever made, pretty much. Not really. But it's on...
Well, yeah, but
it's on fridges, it's on the PS3,
they've tried their best
PS4,
to keep it running for as long as possible. It's like Skyrim, even. Skyrim has been on PC,
but it works, though,
Xbox,
because people love the game.
PlayStation.
Like, no matter what I do, I will always come back to that game. People moan at me and say, like, oh, Shed, you're playing a lot of Fortnite. I know for a fact there's going to be a day where I'm going to be back on Minecraft.
Well, yeah, but that is where you started your YouTube career, I'm going to call it.
It's the same with, like, my nephew, my brother, like, everyone I know always ends up back on that game at some point. It's like Ark. It's like you with Ark. Like, I know we're going to go back and play Ark at some point, because that was that
But
game.
the reason why we're going to go back and play Ark is because we found it enjoyable to play together. It wasn't because the game itself is great. It's because we made it great.
Mm-hmm. But it's just...
But
it is definitely iconic, especially in today's generation. The fact that you can get that on your phone, your fridge, and it's the first game that really did that. I mean, a lot of games do that now, like Fortnite and all different games really, but Minecraft was the first game that just existed on everything. Like, you get it on a smartwatch. It's like,
because it was owned by Microsoft. It was one of Microsoft's
and the fact that it was
intellectual properties.
And the fact that it was like created primarily in the beginning for PC, I think.
Yeah, Java. It was only for PC.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons, because obviously PC games and a game like Minecraft can be easily transferred to different consoles.
It wasn't easy to do because Notch did it all in spaghetti code. They had to basically remake the game, I think.
Yeah, well, that's me. That's Minecraft. I thought I'd talk about Minecraft.
Are you ready for the curveball of the century?
Yes, sir.
Wii Sports, baby.
Wii Sports.
Wii Sports.
I was going to talk about this, but I thought I've already talked about the first fitness gaming system. This podcast has actually worked out so well, George. It's like we're in sync. People are going to think we had a conversation. I was like, yeah, George, so I'm going to start talking about the fitness console, and then I'm going to start talking about the first game based on movies. And then you was like, oh yeah, so I'll bring that up later.
No.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, I know, it's weird, isn't it?
There was no contact between me and George about the podcast for the last couple of days. Just somehow come together.
Until yesterday when he brought it up, like at midnight the day before. So, I'm calling this a curveball because this is not a game I've ever played on the channel. Or on Twitch. Or on any sort of streaming thing. But it is a game... What are you doing, you absolute
George,
goblin?
just focus on your speech, man.
How am I supposed to focus on me when I'm just in my own mouth? Huge. It looks like an 80s video, man. This is the kind of thing you'd see on Take On Me. It's like, Take On
I'm just trying to
Me
arrange it so everyone...
with big mouth.
Oh.
So, this entire game was created to showcase Nintendo's motion tracking software. The entire game was because it is a motion tracking game or software, right? It was the first thing that came with every Nintendo Wii because it was part of the thing. It was the first thing that was advertised. Do you remember the adverts? Because I sure do.
I just remember, like, everyone who's anyone had a Nintendo Wii.
Not even that, though. Like, do you remember the horror stories that came on, like, afterwards?
No.
Where, like, it'll be a short news story where shock horror.
I think
TV destroyed by Wii remote.
It's because I know it was like
because
saying
someone hadn't put the wrist strap on and they just let go of it and it
yeah, that was an issue. That will
bigger.
always be an issue. It's the same with like the PSP. I feel like everything always has a wrist strap. But it was really the first exercise console component that actually worked. I know we discussed it earlier, but you know, as we say, it hadn't been touched for like 30 years. The idea had just been shoved in the
vault. The reason why it worked was because it was such a simple idea, right? It was, you swing the remote, it does a thing. You swing the remote, it does a thing. You attach a nunchuck and you go like this, and it does exactly that. Because it is, you could replace, from what I remember reading, like absolutely ages ago, you could get rid of the tracking thing and put 2 candles, and it would still.
You know what I find interesting?
Track.
Nintendo is still pushing the fitness and, you know, whatever made the Wii popular. Because now with the Switch, you've got the Switch bands, and Abby's just bought one. That's why I've actually been looking into the exercise stuff. Because I see that popular.
Well, the reason why is because is it Miyamoto the top honcho?
To be honest, I feel like Nintendo. I want to get a Nintendo Wii just for a laugh, man. Because playing bowling on that and like the boxing and everything, man, it's just so much fun. There are
some really great games on Nintendo Wii.
So much fun.
It's the entire console is slept on as a console.
You know what it is as well? It's the fact that you're standing up and you're interacting with it. It just, you feel like a normal human while you're playing it. It's the same with like VR. Like you stand up with a controller when you're sitting there doing that. Humans not meant to do that. But no, if you're doing interactive stuff, like it feels like you're playing a sport. You know, same with the Move, like the PlayStation Move, like you're moving your hands in a more natural way. It feels more.
Well, the thing was, the Nintendo Wii was pushed as family system, right? Nintendo have always been.
It just feels more human, you know.
Thing. They always aim for a family audience. They've always aimed for a young adult audience and parents. Like, oh, you're playing Super Mario. Let me play because I love Super Mario. They run those IPs because.
Why is George so zoomed in? Because George is speaking, so I'm giving him the biggest, platform to talk. Why your lips look so weird, George? Why are they such a weird shape, man?
That's just how my lips are. Also, the camera's at a weird angle, but it is my lips are a strange shape.
People watching this back. Imagine if this was on Spotify, man, and this was the, sometimes the video was playing in the background. That's the reason probably why we'll never be on Spotify.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Because of me.
So, the
Nintendo
Wii was a family system. It was created to have parents play, have kids play, have grandparents play even. It was them trying to push to a wider audience because they couldn't hustle in on the same way that the PlayStation or the Xbox could. The Xbox. So, like, the entire motion tracking thing was 4 years before the Xbox Connect. And it worked better than the Xbox Connect because it had a dedicated... the tracker was in your hand rather than it being your body as
well,
the tracker.
The Xbox Connect kind of just copied the Wii, didn't they, really, on that one?
They did. They really did. But, like, the way they did it was different, which is why they got away with it. And it was...
It's the same with the Move, man.
They didn't work. The Wii, in my memory, is the only one that worked perfectly.
It did work,
it was simplified.
But that just was never as popular as the Wii. That's the thing.
Well,
when one company does something
the
that
reason
well,
the Connect didn't work was because sometimes it wouldn't even track you, even if you because you got a little card with it. Because I had one, you'd get a little card and it would be like, here's where I'm stood. You've got to do so much setup for this thing to work. Whereas Nintendo Wii, put the thing down and it just worked out of the box as long as you went. It's on top of the TV. It's underneath the TV. That's all you had to do, and it worked.
Definitely.
So, Nintendo Wii Sports, because we're not talking about the Nintendo Wii, we're talking about Wii Sports. Sold 82 million copies. 82.
Well, that's big. That is in the top 5, I think, best-selling games with Minecraft and Tetris, because it was on every single freaking Wii, given as a free item. I don't think it should count, to be honest. Everybody's got.
It does count.
Wii Sports. The thing is, though,
even
like games
in consoles now still count.
Games that get released free of a console normally get thrown to the side and never played, but the Wii Sports is kind of essential for the Nintendo Wii, so you kind of have to play it.
Well, the thing is, it was great. The game is incredible. The
game is incredible.
The game was incredible. It was the reason why it worked so well is because it was the first thing you play. It was intended as a way to benchmark how the thing works, so you get used to it. It brought about sort of a really quiet revolution where a lot of people were paying attention to the gaming industry in a way that they hadn't for a long time. And it was because it was aimed at families. The advertising was pushed as a child, their mother, their father, and maybe even their grandparents. And they'd all have a smile on their face in a way, and they'd all be happy and fit and doing garbage or whatever,
Doing garbage.
But there was such good press about the games, even when it was bad press, because the press was, this game is getting people active, and then, oh no, the TV's been smashed. Like, that was a huge news story for about 2 years after the game released. Was like every now and again they'd do like an update on how many TVs had been broken. Or
I remember like playing on someone's Wii, and always first thing they say was like, because I didn't have a Wii myself, like, have you done your wrist strap? My brother had a Wii. He used to play COD on the Wii. I can't imagine playing COD on the Wii, man. That must have been hell. Like, I had a PS3.
Well, you say that. I think that it works in a way that is better than consoles sometimes.
I think if you have the
because it is.
If you have the gun attachment for you Wii remote, then it works. But I don't think he did. He was just standing there, playing COD like that.
Well, you could use the controller, right? As like you could plug in a GameCube controller and it would work, and you'd play it on the controller rather than using the motion tracking. But the motion tracking was the best part about the Wii. Like, I would never not use the motion tracker compared to just playing it set down. So that's me done on the Wii Sports. What is your game?
I'll get to it in a second. I'm just
making yourself really big. Yeah, I know. I see. Dubsy, we're ending this probably at 12, honestly, at this rate. Well, my thoughts on Club Penguin. What a classic game, man. Club Penguin, no joke, I played Club Penguin for years. Until it closed out. I was so sad when it closed.
Let's get rid of Giant George, because I feel like I'm reducing the quality of the professional podcast, the professionalism. By giving George a big head. So, last game, GTA 5. So I've gone with another modern game. Cause,
before you actually got... This game has existed for about 5 years now, right?
I know. It's not... Well, more than 5, George. More like 8 years, mate.
Which is insane, because
that's one
GTA
thing I wanted
4
to talk
only
about.
had a life cycle of about 4 years.
It's another one of them games that has like an infinite life cycle, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because...
Well, I don't think it's infinite.
What I like about GTA as well is they don't try to hurry out games like Call of Duty and all these other companies. Like, their quality is so good that you could be playing it for the next 20 years and it would still be like top notch. You know what I mean? But COD will just be like, we need to make another one this year. FIFA, we need another one bringing out. You know what I mean? GTA.
Well, the reason why is because it's made by
Rockstar,
right? Rockstar care about their audience. Like,
I was going to talk about GTA 1 because it's really interesting. GTA 1 now coming back and stuff, but like you say,
didn't Rockstar make Saints Row, or is that my imagination?
I don't think so, no. They won't make another game that competes with it. So. But they did make Red Dead Redemption, which is also another huge game, which took, I think, thousands of hours to make. I remember reading, because you think about it, Red Dead Redemption has a huge map, like bigger than any map in game history, I think. I haven't played it. I really need to play it. I haven't played any of the Red Deads, but it looks amazing. Right, so San Andreas in GTA 5 is actually bigger than Manhattan. Like in real life. That's how big the map is. It's bigger than Manhattan. So, 46% of people, when this game got released, actually said that they're called in sick, according to IGN, because it's got that much of a gaming culture. Like GTA is a staple.
It's existed
game
for so long. Yeah, it's been
PS1,
PS2,
PS2, right? PS3, PS4. Always been a good GTA. There's always been a GTA out. And the thing is, like, PS2 had multiple, but obviously GTA 4 and 5 stuck around for like 5 to 10 years.
4 wasn't great, but I still played it.
The thing is, as well, the amount of controversy around GTA 5, like the amount of times parents have like rioted and stuff and said like GTA isn't suitable for kid audiences, because I think one kid went out and like murdered someone or something, and they tried to blame it on the game.
But it's not for kid audiences.
Yeah,
that's
I mean, to be honest, it wasn't even the game's fault. It was more his upbringing and stuff.
This is legitimately what I get mad about, is parents blaming.
They always blame games, but you know, there's been research that showed that it's not the fault.
Well, the thing is, it's not even games. Like, people will get mad about films or games or anything.
Obviously,
but it's their stop. I would like to speak. It's their bad parenting that lets them play these games. It's their bad parenting that lets them watch certain streamers or whatever. Like, there are streamers that get so much flack, even though they say, you know, this isn't for kid audiences, especially on Twitch, where it has the 18+ thing, or this is intended for mature audiences. They still get flack saying don't swear in front of my kid.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, GTA, everything they say, it goes against. I mean, it's incredibly violent. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But it is not intended for a kid audience. Also, so every time they do, they talk about, like, oh, you know, this game isn't suitable for kids. Yeah, no shit.
Apparently,
because it isn't suitable for kids.
It was took off the shelves as well, because they were stereotyping women in a certain way, which I do, because you have like hookers and all sorts of people.
Well, I mean, yeah, but they said like that isn't what happens in real life.
Exactly, it's something that happens in real life. But as I say, like, it's got that much controversy and it still survives that. It's still like a huge game. Did I ever tell you?
I don't know if it was 5, but a lot of the bad reviews you'll see in review magazines or review sites is paid for by Rockstar. Rockstar will happily pay for bad reviews.
Bad reviews still gets You know, still
bad
gets people
reviews
buying
get
the game.
better sales than good reviews for GTA at least. I don't
You
know about
everyone
Red
always,
Dead or whatever.
they're always on to me and saying like, why don't you play GTA 5? I do have GTA 5, and I've played most of the GTAs. The thing is, with me, is like, GTA is a brilliant game, and this one is like amazing. I got into it very late.
Yeah,
People
exactly.
are so far into it. And my GTA to me, is driving around running over people for no
which
reason at
isn't
all.
indicative to a good YouTube thing.
Which I used to love to do on PS2, but now you can do so many more things, so it's just not really original to do it. People still do it, but you know, it's just it gets a bit boring after a while. But GTA 5 actually does quite well on YouTube. Me and George might have to revisit it, but I don't know because we're so far behind.
Well, the
people,
reason why
like
GTA 5 does so well is because it still has a huge audience that play it.
It's
and
the
people wanna watch
culture
it from a different angle.
It's
right?
the culture, the gaming culture. Like GTA has always been a staple since PS1. They spent so much time making the game. The stories I heard are pretty good. 31 hours long. Look at most games today.
That seems about right for most games, though.
Not really, George, because like Spider-Man Miles Morales, for example, 7 hours.
Yeah, but that didn't feel like a game. That felt like an add-on to a previous
Most
game.
games
I don't
are
know
like
why they sold it as a new
15 hours. Original Spider-Man, 15 hours. Assassin's Creed, they're around 30 hours.
Actually, I say that. Uncharted was 15 hours.
Yeah, they're about 15 at most. If they're, you know, bigger games like Assassin's Creed, it's like 30 hours. Because that is a heavily, it's a story game, basically.
Story-based
But this
game,
also does, online, it's got these huge maps, as I say, bigger than Manhattan.
Online is what...
I mean, think of how long it takes.
most of the views.
How long it takes to make one of those maps. Everything in that game has to be created digitally. The map
It's definitely got
huge.
a lot easier because you can.
It's getting easier because of
now
technology, but just think of the work that went into it. I mean, they do it with
yeah,
Red Dead as well. Like, apparently, it spent like hundreds of thousands of hours making Red Dead and took them like 10 years. They don't skimp on quality. Like, GTA 6 won't be released till GTA 6 is ready.
Well, compared to Cyberpunk, they spent 10 years on Cyberpunk and they still fucked it up majorly.
So this game basically would have lasted.
That is the vast difference.
This game would have lasted through 3 generations of consoles if it makes it onto the PS5, which no doubt will, and it's backwards compatibility. Same with Minecraft. That's why I've talked about it, because it doesn't die, and that's when you know a game's good, because people are still playing it 5 years later.
The problem is though, that's not always a good thing that it doesn't die. I'm just taking this from a different angle. Like, people want to play a new...
They do want to play a new variation of it, but again, they keep updating it. They keep adding new cars, new concepts. You can basically live in GTA. You can do everything you can do in real life in GTA. You can earn money.
It's all pay to win,
buy
right?
houses.
A lot of the stuff is so expensive in the game that you're like encouraged.
The thing
to
is,
buy
like, when you buy houses and stuff like that, that's what I love about games. Like, you can live your life that you want in that game.
That's why people love The Sims, right? Because they want idealistic lives.
Exactly.
But
The Sims has just gone downhill, to be honest. But like GTA 5 just does it all. Basically,
it's actually pretty big on Twitch. You know, Sims 4 is pretty big.
It does it all, and although I don't talk about GTA 5 much, I got to give it credit. And I remember the hype when it came out. People were camping outside game for like days. Yeah. And I remember talking about it in class, and they were like, "Oh,
the graphics
GTA
were
5
incredible as well."
And still, like, again, it's a generational game. Your dad will play GTA 5, your granddad will play because they played it on the PS1. You know what I mean? And then you'll have like a 10-year-old kid who's just got into it. They probably shouldn't, because
like, if you go back to like the first GTAs, where it's a completely different game because it was a top-down.
But still, then it was still revolutionary for gaming.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like the way that it's always been cutting edge technology, cutting edge graphics. Like GTA 1.
You got to give Rockstar props for it.
I think, right? Rockstar is an English company.
I think there was a lot of lawsuits that they experienced like back in the day that almost prevents it from happening. And still now to this day, there's so many laws in place, and so much controversy that it makes them have to push it
Was
back.
it
But it's the only game that
GTA
is subject to all that
that-
stuff and still survives.
Was it GTA that brought about? No, it wasn't. Ignore me. It was Mortal Kombat. I was going to say they brought about age rating, but it was Mortal Kombat.
I think it was probably a similar time,
Combination.
and I think they would have got a lot of stick for it because I remember watching a documentary about it, and there was so much stuff that was going on when it was being produced that it almost didn't get made because of the
Which is
content
understandable.
of the game.
Like that was back when people were scared of the media in their own house, right? Like they were scared of manipulation of children and brain. Like people were still scared of hypnotism.
Yeah.
Then, compared that to the 60s, there is a law in British TV that you cannot show hypnotism. The only reason the only person you'll ever see do it is Darren Brown.
Yeah.
But he didn't call it hypnotism. He called it something else, so he got away with it. Like it was called like subtle manipulation or some garbage name he made up.
Another reason why we've got to talk about GTA 5, and the final reason, other than the graphics and all the other stuff we mentioned, it's the most expensive game ever made.
How much?
£137 million. I think
They've
Modern
clawed that
Warfare.
back
I think Modern
over and
Warfare
over
might
and
have
over.
been around a similar amount. Might have been a tiny bit more because it was made like a year later, or not a year later. It made like last year, but in 2013 it was, and it has made billions. I think it's also one of the best-selling games as well.
Not only in initial sales, but
Even
like
though
microtransactions in the game.
Even though Minecraft has made more copies and sold more copies, GTA 5 is a more expensive game, and obviously it was so
Minecraft goes
expensive to
for
make.
15, right? When I
So
looked at the
I
price,
think it might actually be one of the best-selling games in history. I'm correct. Minecraft is the
Brilliant.
best-selling game, but that's copies sold, units sold. GTA is obviously at higher cost, so
highest grossing.
so there you go. That's my games. I think I've done quite well. Give myself a
Should I
pat
tell
on
you
the
my
back.
final? Should I tell you my final game?
He's got me something trash, man. He's got me something like Legend of Zelda or something, man.
Bro, I have gone with Legend of Zelda.
I'm gonna joke, man. And I just
But
guess
I did-
that. I told you I got
but
good
I
guessing
went-
powers, guys.
I went with Majora's Mask over Ocarina of Time.
How well do I know George? How many games have been produced in the history of gaming? And how weird is George? George is the weirdest guy I've ever met. And I managed to
Majora's
pick.
Mask is
I managed to
great.
pick what game he chose out of all those games. Bearing in mind, we have not spoke about this podcast at all. All we said was what we're gonna do. Pick like 6 things, and throughout the podcast, we've had similar elements, and it's somehow strung
It's
together.
worrying. It's worrying, isn't it?
It's
scary,
really weird
but
how our
quite similar.
minds are like in sync, man. I might have to I don't know, reprogram myself.
So,
It's bad.
the reason why I've gone with Majora's Mask instead of Ocarina of Time.
I still can't believe I guessed that. It's just so weird that it's like I read your mind.
Well, the reason why is because you prefer shooter games or builder games, right? I quite like RPGs or
Yeah, but that just come to me. Like, I was just gonna say a random ass game, and I just picked Legend of Zelda out my ass, and that's what you. That's the game you picked.
You cannot tell me it is not a
I've never played it.
iconic game. No,
I've
but
played any
you know
Legend
of
of
it,
Zelda.
right? It is an incredible RPG, right? So many people will tell you that Ocarina of Time is a better game. You're entitled to your opinion, but they are
I
fucking
can't
wrong.
really give you any opinions. on that.
Majora's Mask is better. Dead ass. Stop the cameras. It's better. It's just better. So I'm gonna tell you why it's better. Because it's better.
George, you've not done any research, man. I've spent like 30 minutes on each one, and all you can say is, "Oh, I'll tell you what's better, mate, because it's better." I'm actually trying to string together sentences about these things.
Listen.
I've just spent 20 minutes talking about GTA 5. Oh, I'll tell you why Legend of Zelda's so good, man. Because you know why? Because it's good. Because it's better.
No, that is why it is better than.
Remember, you know what, guys? This guy's got a degree.
Somehow, I pulled that out of my ass, honestly.
That's actually what I used to
This
do in
was-
lectures. He's like, oh, you know what I've done?
Wait,
see my
no,
hand.
you're forgetting the.
Like, ah.
That I would always pull, and
That's it, mate.
always.
That's all I've done. That's what I've done.
Always get it.
And they'd be
I
like,
would always-
so, George, tell us about your work. That's it, mate. That's what I've done there. That thing there, mate.
And that got me
Finished.
a second, like a BA.
It's how,
Oh, man.
how worrying is it?
That's
Like,
worrying.
how easy it is to pass an art degree, man.
I know. Like the thing is, like you see people worrying about getting into places, and you see people
Me
worrying
and,
about
like,
passing.
I
As
got a
long
master's
as you
degree,
do a
George's got
minimum
degree.
amount of work, you will pass. No, like we knew one person that failed, right? That was it, and that was because he was dyslexic.
Well, that was at master's level, George.
Oh yeah, that was a
Oh,
master. Sorry.
You know.
You will not fail a bachelor's degree if you do
Me and
the
George just
minimal
literally,
amount.
we used to live together. We would just like distract ourselves by having showers every 10 minutes and just like going shopping, man. And we,
Dude, it would be showers, shopping, drinking in the shower, which was
the funny thing is, like, I feel like I
Brainwave.
tried for 2 years, and last year I didn't even try and still passed. And the masters, I barely turned up for anything and still passed. Like, I did all the work
It's
on
a
my own, like,
business.
typing up.
it's a business. They need people to pass
Anyway,
because if they don't, they will
let's
not
get back
more
to
people in.
Legend of Zelda. We might have to do a podcast to just talk about our uni experience. I think it'd be good.
Yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
of
We'll do
stories.
that next week if you want.
Can do.
Because I
'cause,
know
mean,
that now is
we
is
don't
around
have
the
to
time that
we
people
don't
are
have to
getting
rehearse for that.
offers. Well, the thing is, people are I think now is around the time when UCAS is getting back to people.
But it's like you say, until you've been through it, you don't realise how easy it is, and
Yeah, exactly.
how
Like-
lenient they are, and what the standard is.
I know in particular that one of my viewers is like waiting on a reply. Like, you will get a place, dead ass, unless you are illiterate.
The thing is, though, getting the place is actually the hardest. Because you need the
That's the hardest
grades
bit.
to begin with, and if you have them, then that's it. You know.
Then you can
can't
pass
do
it. Like, I know that they got an unconditional
Paramedic
place,
science degree.
but they still haven't got any of their
the
stuff.
requirements for that outfit might be a bit tougher. No.
Right. Yeah, like for an artist or media degree,
if you
don't
if
need
you're getting
any.
a degree and it's going to affect people's lives, like teaching, science,
Then they care about it a lot
anything
more.
like that, it's more strict. I can tell you from
Arts,
experience.
they are so liberal about arts. Like, you could have a shit and paint it gold, and they'll be like, "Ta-da! This
From
is
someone who's gone from studying art to doing teaching. It's very a lot
Yeah,
more
different.
serious. Because art, no one cares. I still care. Like I put a lot of effort into my work.
the
I'm
reason
not
why
gonna
they
lie,
don't care is because everything
But I
is
didn't.
interpretive to different people, right?
When I was doing it though, like I didn't care as much because it didn't affect anyone. Like the work I made, it was just made to show. It was just made to get points and people to say, "Oh, that looks good." And when you're doing something like a paramedic, like you have to remember this stuff. You can't forget it.
Well,
You know, you.
well, it's not even that. The read like university.
If you mess it up, you can ruin someone's life. You know, you can kill them. You know what I mean?
Well, even with art, like the stuff we did for art made no fucking sense. It didn't matter. Even like galleries made more sense, right? Like it was nothing like galleries. Like you could make something and be like,
You could literally
and then
make
like,
anything.
oh, very nice.
As long as you can talk
Yeah.
about it, you know, you could start designing bloody YouTube emojis and say, you know what? Well, back in ancient Egypt, they used to use
This is
emojis.
indicative of hyper and poggers. You could, like honestly, you could say poggers in class.
That's all.
and the teachers wouldn't.
When you
give
think
a
of an art
shit.
degree, you think of painting and drawing. It's mainly how you communicate. As long as you can finesse and tell a smart, clever lie, basically. As long as you can bullshit, you can get an art degree, really. If you can,
yeah, no, honestly,
if you can put a plant pot there,
as long as
and
you
not
get
put
into
anything
a
in
place and you do the minimal amount of work.
Well, I remember one of our friends, George,
describing.
remember Nav, he was like saying to one of the teachers, they were like, you can do anything. He's like, so if I give you this blank piece of paper and I hand this in, like, well, that was taking a bit far, but he's like, I'm just going to give you this blank piece of paper and hand this in, nothing on it, and that's going to be my final work.
As long as you explained it, like you're like, oh, this represents the nothingness that the art world has become. You'd be like, you know, like.
The thing is, George, you still didn't explain stuff. Still got, like, still passed.
I know, but I'm so lucky to have got my degree.
I mean, you literally, your final project was like an anime game that looked like a bloody PowerPoint slideshow.
Yeah, I know, but because it was about politics, they gave me a pass anyway.
Whereas me, I was doing all sorts of 3D printing and stuff like that. I say I didn't try, but like I did do like quite a lot of work. Like my not trying is other people's going the extra mile, I think. Because I mean,
anyway,
like,
games.
Some of our friends just like they kept changing their ideas. They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna create like a car boot sale with random stuff, and it's just, you know, it's gonna be about stealing people's ideas. You remember Jack? He was like, oh, can I take a?
I wonder who that was.
Yeah. He's like, oh, can I take a picture of your work and put it on this one and put it on that?
I mean, fucking
you can use it for a lot of things, Alfie. Use it for a lot of things.
Like, the thing...
I'm not using it for work at the moment.
Well, you can so you can use an art degree for applying to do like TV work. You can do it for
graphics.
You could do freelance stuff. You can do
a lot of things.
You can literally get a job in a company as their
games development. Yeah, like pretty much anything. Like as long as you can apply a context to it and say like, oh, when I was doing my art degree, I did this or did that, then.
Well, no, not you can literally be like, oh, you could get a job at Rare, even. Like, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can do 3D modeling because of what I learned back then. Like, as long as you can
it's a versatile degree,
tell them, yeah.
It's not like you can get an English degree and then go apply for an art job and say, oh, well, I studied English. You know what I mean? It's going to be a bit different. That sense of the word.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, you could apply for an English job after doing an art degree, but you can't apply for an art degree, like an art job, after doing English, because the amount of writing you have to do for an art degree anyway.
Exactly.
Like
this mainly writing, that's the thing. But let's not talk about that, George. Let's save that for next week.
For next week.
This is a little introduction to next week,
as a preview,
which was totally planned.
Next week.
At the start of the podcast, we totally planned that.
Yep, totally planned. Legend of Zelda. Majora's Mask. Why is it a better game? Well, let me tell you, why it's a better game. Because it was the second game they made on the 64 in 3D. The first one being Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time.
Why is it called Ocarina of Time? What does that mean? What does ocarina mean?
An ocarina is a musical instrument, and the Ocarina of Time is like this mystical musical instrument that can turn time. What are you doing? Stop that. That can turn back time, especially so in Majora's Mask. It is basically a follow-on. I don't know why you've done this to me. I look like a goon. Hello, what's that?
Serious, man? I don't know why. I just can't take you serious anymore, George.
So, Majora's Mask, as a kid, fucking terrifying. Oh my god. Scary as balls, dude. So, there are scenes that are dark and horrifying that you don't see in the other Zelda games. You'll see this kid be possessed by a mask, the Majora's Mask, which is why it's called that. And he essentially summons the moon to squash the country in 3 days. This is, I think, one of the only games that has a repetitive game cycle. Like, you can turn back time 3 days once you've learnt the song. The Song of Time or some bullshit name. But, like, it does the same 3 days over and over again, but it differs based on what you've done. And you have to release, like, these guardians, and they'll, like, hold the moon up. But the moon is absolutely frightening, dude. The moon gave me nightmares.
Is it GTA that the moon's seen as an enemy or something? I read that earlier. I didn't read into it, but I was just like, what?
That sounds crazy. That's crazy.
You know, stop trying to do another bloody Skyrim moment, man. You got to bring that back.
Yeah.
You should have done that, like, you should have picked Skyrim and you should have got your game out and done, anyway, Skyrim as soon as I finish. You missed the trick there, mate.
Somewhere. Anyway, Legend of Zelda. No, I don't have the game, so I can't just, like, bring it up. I sold it for way too little, and I regretted it ever since, because it's an expensive game, and it's really good.
Well, is Zelda getting better or worse?
Better. Absolutely better. The Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2 were some of the best-selling Zelda games of all time. They pushed for a more realistic, but
the
also...
thing is, I think, like, Zelda, in my opinion, like, back in the day, was always, like, not very
game.
cool, but now it's, like, it's very in. Like, it's
So,
cool to know about Zelda.
The reason why was because the original games were top-down views in third person, and it would be on Game Boy or the NES. But with Majora's Mask, that game gave me nightmares.
The thing is, though, like, Zelda, alongside the games, like, back in the day, like, it would have been competing against, like, Mario and stuff. You would not pick Zelda over those, or I wouldn't, personally. But now, on the Switch, I can't think of any other game I would rather play on the Switch than that. Because I wouldn't play Animal Crossing.
Even back then, it was still pretty early in development of 3D games. Like, Majora's Mask came out in the year 2000. Like, that's pretty early for 3D games, considering the GoldenEye was...
Well, we were talking about 64. It was 96 that came out, the Nintendo 64, so...
Yeah, well, GoldenEye was 1997, so they've only had 3 years really to figure out how 3D works. It's another one of
Nintendo's like best-selling games. Like, it's another one of their best-selling franchises. Like, Nintendo seems to do that. Like, they'll carry like 5 or 6 franchises through with them, and they're still popular today. And they keep making amazing games. I mean, it's the same with PlayStation. You know, you've got Crash Bandicoot, Sonic. You know, Nintendo's got Mario, Donkey Kong.
Well, the thing is, the problem with Sonic is they haven't made a good Sonic game since...
Well, they've changed the movies now, haven't they, really?
I think Sonic 06.
I've switched to movies.
Well, yeah, because
I've not
like,
seen
even
it,
the 25th anniversary, like Sonic Boom wasn't a great game. There was a Sonic game on the Wii that was fucking terrible.
I've not seen it.
They
is it good? The new
They
movie?
haven't made a good game since, I think, Sonic on the NES or whatever. Like,
it's a shame because I don't know whether Sonic still works though. Because as you say, it is
Sonic is a great game. Like,
it is kind of a
franchise.
side scroller, and
it should only be done as a side scroller. Like, there are games where you go behind the character.
That's the thing.
And that
it's
doesn't
like
work for me as a Sonic game.
But then again, if Crash Bandicoot can make a comeback, like, Sonic is just as influential as that character.
What? The problem is they have to work out a new formula.
It's kind of like a 3D version, though, isn't it? You know, Crash Bandicoot has always been...
Crash Bandicoot, it's always
first
been 3D,
person.
right? Yeah.
You know, whereas Sonic's always been third person.
Side scroller. And side scroller's not a big sales point at the minute. Like, it might be in like 10 years' time or 2 years' time, depending on how whatever games are made in a side scroller fashion.
You know what though? They're missing the trick because you could most definitely make a 3D Sonic game now. You could have a huge open world space.
Oh, they have, but it's been shit. They've made plenty of 3D Sonic games.
Yeah, but if they put the money behind it,
they have done. They've spent 6 years in development of Sonic, the 25th anniversary, right? Still looks garbage.
They need a new team.
Like, the Wii game looks garbage. The PlayStation game looks garbage. They
garbage.
Not made. Well, they all look really shit. They haven't made.
Happy New Day.
I've
got to give Alfie some props for watching this whole thing, man.
So I'm just going to quickly cut to the end of the Zelda thing because we're running out of time.
We're not running out of time, George. It's just we did say we were going to quit at 12, but you've decided to do a lot more research for Zelda and like 2 minutes of research for the rest of the games.
Yes. So the game sold.
But the thing is, I
lot
don't know
less
whether you
than
have
Ocarina
done
of Time.
research on it, because all I keep hearing is Ocarina of Time, Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Well, no, the thing is, like, those were the 2 Zelda games on 64, and Majora's Mask, I think, was intended for use with the CD attachment.
My hair's getting
But
funky,
once-
man. No.
Once the CD thing got scrapped, they had to use the 4 gig adapter thing that came with, and it was intended. You couldn't play it without this data attachment.
This might be
But
our
it's sold less
longest
than Ocarina of
podcast
Time.
yet.
It's only been 2 hours.
2 hours and 19 minutes.
That's still pretty short, really. So they sold 3.3 million copies of that game, which isn't a lot compared to Ocarina of Time, which sold like
Just saying,
twice as
guys,
much.
if you've made it here, you could have watched the full movie in this time.
We got,
Don't even
we got
listen to me
some
and George.
very, very quick gaming news.
No, George, take your time, man.
No, I've done with that. Do you know? Here's a thing that's happening in the PlayStation world. An American law firm is thinking about suing PlayStation because of controller drift. If apparently the controller drift's really bad on the DualSense controllers.
It is.
Like
With the
they're
control-
thinking
To be
about
honest, I've had
doing
like 3
a
broken
class
controllers.
action.
Every time I order
Yeah, well,
one,
they're
they
thinking
always
about
have
doing
bad
a class action lawsuit.
But they don't care though. It's like Samsung. They always slow down phones with updates, and they've actually, it's been proven, and that like every phone company, even Apple and Samsung, have been took to court and
Doing it for
fined a
years,
lot of money. But the amount of money they're making outweighs the amount of money they can be charged, so they don't care.
Exactly.
They won't be
But I
bothered.
think this might make a huge difference because it's a console that is still fairly new. Not many people really have one. If they're already getting sued on stick drift, just imagine how bad it is. It's been out for what, half a year? If
Well,
that,
this is what
really.
we said, about waiting. And to be honest, I've been resigned to wait, even though I didn't want to for the PS5.
It's been good that you did because
Well, it's not my fault though, because I would have bought it. Like, I had the money, I was ready to go. I've been
No, I
looking
know,
for
but, like,
months on the
do
site.
you remember all
can't
the
get on.
bugs on the first week, the first few weeks of the bugs, where Call of Duty would brick your PlayStation like it wouldn't work? The stick drift is apparently unbelievably bad, even compared to PS4 ones, which are also atrocious.
It normally
right?
takes at least a year for the company to get it right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't think
mean,
they're going to be
It's
working.
not even their fault.
The thing
it's-
is, George,
it's
they're not going to be
completely not their
working
fault.
on software right now. They're working on trying to produce more consoles.
Hardware, yeah.
And that's going to make it take even longer to fix these issues, to get a perfect console. Really, you want to wait 1 to 2 years to buy a new PlayStation. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get it straight away because I've always had the new console. But I can't do it because of the scalpers.
There was a news flash that came up on the website that I look at for gaming news, in brackets IGN. I look at IGN. I just look at the top stories for the week. GTA 5 has officially sold more than 140 million copies, I think, this week.
193.
Which is weird that we've been talking about GTA 5 basically
I
all
think
day.
it-
See you later, Dubsy.
It sold 193 million, I think. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, I literally looked today and it said 140 more. From a reputable source, so not your
Maybe
math,
that's on the
so-
newest console.
No, that's in total. No, that's...
Tron is in Fortnite.
Yes.
Apex Legends.
Ratchet and Clank.
2-year anniversary.
Apex Legends in Fortnite. Yeah, Apex Legends 2-year anniversary.
How's it 2 years, man? I
um,
remember the last anniversary we were playing it on the day, and we were
yeah,
chatting
that was a year ago.
about
man. Can
how
you believe
they
it?
don't update the game as much as they need to, and there's no new maps.
And then suddenly there is new maps that
But
go.
we was playing in World's Edge, then. But the thing is, for me, the problem with Apex Legends is every new map it gets worse. Because I am always a King's Canyon boy, and I always will be. And now they've redone King's Canyon again. Every time they redo it, it becomes more fun.
Yeah, well, the thing because they make a lot of changes to it, right? Every time, like bits are missing now, bits have been added.
I know they're trying to go for a
Skulltown's
different
gone.
look, but to me, like Apex is supposed to look like you're in the Jurassic era mixed with some new
Well,
bits.
the
but
problem with that is because it's a Titanfall, it's in the Titanfall universe, right? It has to have Titanfall feel about it because it is the same universe. The guns are from the same, like they're all the same guns from Titanfall to Apex. I think they're trying to match the aesthetic, which they.
You know what's
because
gonna
at the start
happen?
It's Outlands.
you know what's going to happen with it is King's Canyon eventually is going to become like a new map because it's going to keep getting newer and newer. We've seen it all the time.
So, right?
It's gone from a really beaten up, like Jurassic era
to...
type world.
Well, no. At the start, like there were no big things in the middle.
And
Like
it's
at the start, it was just.
It's like becoming brand new now because you see all these little things popping up, all these like containers and new buildings,
Which would happen in real life if.
But the thing
like,
is,
it's supposed to be a sporting event.
the
right?
thing is though, it happens, but no one notices. Like I only just got that thought in my head and thought, hang on. I'm thinking about the iterations of King's Canyon. Yeah, it is like changing, but no one ever talks about that.
The thing is, it's like real life. Like sporting events, like the Olympics, changes every 4 years or whatever. Like FIFA changes every 4 years.
Fortnite
like,
does it.
That is a sport.
They change the map a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's how they should have done it. They should have just kept one map like Fortnite, but kept updating it.
It would have got stale with just one map. I think 2 was good, and they rotated.
Yeah, but tell me,
adding
George.
Olympus in now.
Whose favourite maps are Olympus or World's Edge?
No one's. World Edge maybe, but Olympus no.
Everybody's favourite map is the first one. Saying that though, if they don't innovate, they're never going to get a new
news,
map.
because I need to pee again. Ratchet and Clank has a release date, June the 11th.
I've kind of given up on Ratchet and Clank, man.
Yeah, I know.
For me, it's just
Post Malone, the famous singer, my Bob, with a face tattoo, is performing in a virtual Pokemon concert. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, but Post Malone is a huge gamer. Like you see him live
I
on
know.
Twitch playing COD and everything, you know.
So
he actually started playing guitar on the Nintendo Wii. Guitar Hero. That's how we learned guitar.
That's a great game. I'm gonna go piss real quick, and then I'll be back to finish the
Now
news.
they always say congratulations. Georgia's got to be. Oh, yeah. 2.5 hours, boys. Hope you are enjoying the podcast. We're doing these weekly. Let us know what we should cover next.
Let's get right into the news. Ow, fuck. God damn it. Hello. I just hurt my head. Hello, good sir. What have you done to the video? So, the thing that confused me about that, the Post Malone thing, like with no previous really idea about why. Like, when I went online and I saw the animated visage of Post Malone, I was already pretty scared. But then, because it's Pokemon.
You know what I hate? Pokemon is such a big thing right now. It's blowing up again. It's one thing that always comes back, like no matter what.
Yes.
And it's
always.
So influential. And they're doing Happy Meals with Pokemon packs for 25th anniversary. And they're not available in the UK. You know what we get? Top Trumps. Animal Top Trumps. That's what the kids in the UK get. US getting all these Pokemon cards. There's adults going out buying like 5,000 packs and getting them like for like $1 each because, you know, McDonald's is saying, oh, you don't have to buy the Happy Meal, you can just buy the toys. So no kids getting the toys because they're buying them all up. But then they're selling them on eBay for like a million quid because it's Pokemon and Pokemon sells. And you know, like to get a Pokemon pack, it's like $10 anyway.
McDonald's have really tried to, like, I read in the news I was reading that they've really tried to push back against that kind of behaviour, and especially in the Happy Meal.
There's not much they can do. So many people are doing it, and they're just allowing it. Well, the thing is, though,
they can do, is there?
At the end of the day, they're making money, and it's selling. It's good for the business. You know, and it's only a limited time thing. I think it was only available for 1 day.
Yeah.
So, but I just wish we had that in the UK.
America's such a bigger market, though. That's why they get better stuff. They have more people. It's a bigger place.
But it should be released worldwide. I mean, McDonald's is a worldwide company. Why can't they release it everywhere? They might do, though, because normally what happens in America happens in the UK a month later, so we'll see.
They might have had licensing issues. You never know with these kind of things.
But I would love that. I would totally be down to buy like 20 Happy Meals, man. Just to get those. Because I know in 20 years that's going to be worth a fortune.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, Burger King did, like, 20 years ago, they did.
Oh, come on, yeah. But they did, like, coin ones or something, didn't they? Like metal ones, or I don't know.
Well, not even.
Gold,
no, they did
plastic cards.
Little boxes. They did boxes with little Pokeballs, and in the Pokeball there'd be a Pokemon. But they also did the movie cards.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
The gold Mew card.
They're not worth as much, though, because they're gold movie cards. But these cards look like Pokemon cards that you see everywhere. And people are going to want them for their collection to put alongside the others.
Yes.
A 25th anniversary of Pikachu in 50 years is going to be worth money.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, people always care.
Why don't you do card pack
value.
openings on YouTube as well? I used to. If you search a channel, there's whole box breaks, and I didn't used to get any views. So
It's
maybe
it was in the AMS, the Ask Me Anything ones as well. You used to do them as well.
Q&As whilst opening packs. I even did one over at Abby's with no equipment.
I remember that. And the camera fell over.
Multiple times.
So recently, there was a data breach at our favorite company, Project Red. They
What did
lost
they do?
the source code to Cyberpunk.
Side point.
They
Every
lost
week,
the
George.
source code.
Every week he
to The
searches
Witcher 3.
Cyberpunk news. Can we just get rid of it?
No, I don't.
Stop talking
I
about
don't.
Cyberpunk
It's
now.
always in the news because it is such a stupid company. So they were held at ransom for the.
If you go back 7 weeks this podcast, I guarantee you'll find
Every
one
week
element.
there's been a CD Projekt Red. Yeah, absolutely. Because it is big news, my guy.
I'm just gonna
con
pick
their
something
audience.
to talk about every week, like coat angles or something. Related to
I
gaming.
will find a way to get Project Red.
Episode 64. So today, man, we're talking about Project
Episode
Red.
64. Cyberpunk's finally good. All of their fire, they had like a huge hacking incident, and the source code got stolen.
I feel really bad for people who bought the Ultimate Edition. It's like 250 quid, man. You get a statue in Cyberpunk game. I see people selling them on eBay now for like 30 quid. Like,
The thing is, if you were to buy that for 30 quid, in like 10 years, you'll be making a profit, I think.
Yeah, but you'd have to wait 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't
They
play
want
that
the
game.
short-term-
No, at
absolutely
first,
not.
like when I
It's
seen it, I thought like Keanu Reeves, man, this is gonna be such a cool freaking game, man. Keanu Reeves.
Yeah,
look
well, he
how
normally
cool it
does
looks.
passion projects, right?
Look how cool it
So
looks.
he's always passionate about his work.
Well,
that
to be
let
honest,
down.
like the game on paper sounds good, but it's the company just they made some stupid decisions.
So they they lost all the source code to the games. They were held at ransom for them, and they refused to pay it. So it went on auction on the black market, on the dark web, and they sold it. They haven't actually released how much the data got sold for, but someone somewhere owns the source code for Cyberpunk. So I'm hoping that they're gonna remake it into a good game. Can you imagine if that was what they bought it for?
Maybe they'll just make it worse. Make all the characters like Minecraft characters. They already are, aren't they? But they'll just make it worse. If I bought that, I'd make them worse. For a laugh.
So, in other news like this, there was a mod for
The thing is,
Cyberpunk.
how big is that game company? What other stuff have they done?
Project Red, they did Witcher, and they did...
See, they've got such a good history of games. Like, this game could really sink them. Like, it's really
and they
affected
did it
their
in 10
reputation.
years. 10 years they've been making Cyberpunk.
You know what they should have
10
done?
years.
They should have waited till 2077 and release it then.
It probably would've
Maybe
been
that's why
working.
they called it that. Because they thought, bloody hell, this game
That
could
is the
take us
predicted
40
release
years.
date.
You know what, mate? we've put enough time into this. Looks like a PS2 game. Let's release it on every console ever, and sell it for 50 quid each. We've hyped it up enough; it'll be fine. That's what. And then it doesn't work.
Well, do you know what happened? Well, not because of that. There was a mod released on the Steam Workshop. There was a sex mod where, because you're supposed to be able to romance people and supposedly fuck them, right? So they've had to they did they pulled it from the mods from wherever they made the mod, because I think they're their own mod builder. Because it is not legal to make sex mods of actual people. And who is in the game? Keanu fucking Reeves. So people were sexing Keanu Reeves.
That's literally why most people bought the game, I think.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt.
It
was within a week of them releasing the mod toolkit.
There's
they'd already made
Matrix
that.
shit on Keanu Reeves.
There is a new game that looks quite promising. It's called Hood Outlaws, and it is a player versus player heist simulator. So in my head, it's like maybe it's like Hitman, or them scenes in Nathan Drake, where you've got to do the heists.
It's called Uncharted, George.
It's
not called Nathan Drake.
I don't know if you could tell I forgot for half a second. I was like, who?
I did type. The thing is, I think you've been saying that to me, George, because I was looking to buy Uncharted Collector's Edition, and for some reason I typed Nathan Drake into eBay. So you've been putting this into my head.
Do you know why? It's because Nathan Drake Collection is the name of the like the free
one
people,
that you
right?
stole off me.
No, it was free. Nathan Drake Collection was free on the.
I used to have it on the PS3, didn't I? On PS4, but I used to have it when we was living at uni. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'd never played it until recently, and I fell in love with it because I used to play the Tomb Raider games.
We gotta hurry this up, George, because we haven't even done the questions in the chat, man.
Oh yeah, shit.
We're getting up for half one.
DICE are working on a new Battlefield game, so expect the Battlefield game trailer probably.
Battlefield what? Star Wars?
Honestly, Battlefield was great.
Oh, Battlefield.
No, Battlefield is in Bad Company 4. In technological news, pigs can play games with their snouts on console. What times we live in where scientists have time to train a fucking pig
you know what it
to
is?
play fucking GTA.
It's these older scientists who are used to watching, what was it called? Summer of the World. Tomorrow's World, back in the 70s. And they're just all these experiments. And they're just like, and Professor John Lumley has got a pig. And here he is, a pig with a snout playing a game. Just to show off how good something is.
Along with the same technological advances, spinach can send emails.
Spinach?
Which happened last week. Yeah, spinach, like the plant spinach. They've created a way to make it
I feel like that's something you created in your dreams, George.
No. Honestly, if there's like bombs or compounds that are indicative to explosives, so landmines, old World War II.
What's that got to do with spinach?
They have. Let me finish. They have found a way to have spinach.
You know what? You just gave me a brilliant idea, George. We should totally do podcasts on like moments in history.
Crazy ass science.
No, like influential periods in history, like World War II, like the Jurassic era, ancient Rome. And we're just gonna talk random crap about it.
The thing is, because of coronavirus, scientists now have too much fucking funding that they're making spinach send emails and pigs play games.
Yeah, so me and George can take over.
They are working
and provide education for all the kids, because BBC is doing all this stuff where they got TVs, yeah. Bite-sized TV. Me and George can do an educational podcast, so then the kids can be exposed to it and learn about World War II and ancient Rome from me and George. We'll be talking complete
who know nothing about World War II and ancient Rome.
And then that can tune into more podcasts and then realise they're like, what are we watching, man?
So the reason why they've done this because.
But George, the thing is, that's why it's funny. That's why it's funny to talk about them periods in time. Because say we talk about the Egyptians brushing their teeth with a mouse, which I'm sure I've seen on Horrible Histories when I was a kid. Imagine you explain that. It's like, it brushing his teeth with a mouse. A mouse. I can just imagine it.
A fucking mouse. Well, no. Well, the reason why they've actually done this.
What? Brushing their teeth with mice?
That's worrying, Caleb, because you're underage. Maybe don't post that, my guy.
What?
Ever. Anywhere.
What did he say?
In your chat, you should look.
That's Alfie that's put that.
No, it's Caleb.
How do I see it?
In the hidden message, in the helpful reviews.
Oh, I can't see it. Because I'm on
You
stream.
don't want to. The reason why they've made spinach this smart, because there's like minefields.
I just don't get it. What you're talking about? The
II
reason they made spinach this smart. How does spinach send an email? I still don't get it. Explain the science to me.
I have no idea, but they send electrical signals. So they've taught them to send emails.
I've taught spinach. Do you have me on the drink, mate?
No, honestly.
Why is this coming up in our gaming news?
Because it was I saw the pig thing, and then was like, spinach.
That's what happens when you view things on the internet at like 1 a.m. You're like, oh, it's a video about spinach. Sending an email. Oh, that's got me there. That's got me hooked. Quite intrigued about that. Click on it.
I literally have. I have one more news story.
Next thing you know, you're watching rats play the piano.
So, my last news story. Everyone's favorite animatronic from Borderlands, Claptrap, is being played by Jack Black in the film they're going to do. So it's Jack Black the Claptrap. Yeah.
I don't think anyone else
laughed. Why they didn't get the original Claptrap.
Nobody else laughed then.
That wasn't a joke. That was just how I've written it down. Jack Black voicing Claptrap in Borderlands movie. That's all I wrote.
That's the problem with your research, man.
That's the story. That's the story, Captain.
And I think that wraps up our podcast. No, you guys have any questions? Because you have sat here for 2 hours 41 minutes. You might have something to say. So if you got anything to say about the whole 2 hours 41 minutes. I know that Dubsy was asking me about Club Penguin.
The reason why they closed it, Dubsy, was because they were losing money.
You know what's funny, George? We haven't really talked about PC gaming that much, have we?
We've always been majority
console
players. I've not until recently had a console, a laptop, a computer, good enough to play games. I used to have a stupid Acer Aspire chunky ass laptop, and before that it was like a Windows 98 that barely ran games designed for Windows 98.
I really didn't think this podcast would last this long. I didn't think we'd make it to 2 hours, to be honest.
It's 3 hours, my guy. 3 hours.
Every week we're losing viewers. We're down to 8 likes. The first podcast had like 20 likes, man. We're down to 8 likes. Oh well, we might get more views. I don't know, but
maybe
it'd be interesting.
The main
reason I make these is just
I
look
played
back on them in
Just
10
Cause
years.
2, Caleb. That was great. Just Cause was for me a game that
I've got some
had
of them.
a real replayable factor.
I've been meaning to play them because every time I look at it, it just it sends me signals. I just think of Uncharted and Tomb Raider. It's
but
that
it's
kind
absolutely
of game.
different. There are some class lines that me and my friend, we played it together in the same building back when that was allowed.
Shall I tell you the most iconic Uncharted line?
Before COVID, when we
Shall I tell you the most iconic Uncharted line? Marco Polo.
There is a line that I loved, and it is, "My name is Bolo Santosi. I am the leader of the revolutionary army known as the Reapers." And that is all I remember from that game, was just Bolo Santosi, and she was the leader of the revolutionary army known as the Reapers. That's all you needed to know about that game.
The thing is, how can you remember that? The one thing I never remember from games is lines. Everything else, I remember playing it. I remember
the reason why I remember it was because my friend was doing the accent, at the same time as she was saying it.
To be
She
honest,
previously played it, right? So that was a joke of ours for like a solid year or two.
like I remember
was
like
eating-
small bits from each game. Like I know Ezio's accent from Assassin's Creed, like Ezio Editori. Like that accent is like iconic, and like Granada. I couldn't remember. I couldn't string together a full sentence from a game. Oh, what it is.
Well, the only reason I remember it is because it was a joke between me and my friend. That is the only reason.
Sup, Rocky TV? Have you
Hi,
watched this whole
Rocky.
thing, Rocky? He couldn't have done because he would have been commenting. He did comment a bit, but
Yeah, probably at work.
this is the perfect thing to watch at work.
Yeah, 3-hour long podcast of us talking pure bollocks.
If you've got a really long break, or you can watch it in bits, watch it in parts, man. Watch an hour at a time.
So I only played Just Cause 2. And the only reason I played Just Cause 2 was because it was cheap. And then Just Cause 3 and 4 have come along, and I have not got around to playing them yet.
Just Cause 5
Even though
will
we
be
have
soon.
them.
Yeah, I've had them for ages. I think I bought them ages
We
ago.
got them. I mean, we didn't even
The
buy
thing
them. I
is,
didn't buy them. They came
I own
with
everything
PlayStation Plus.
on the PlayStation, pretty much. That every game I could ever want, but I never play them. I keep buying games and not playing them. It's a big issue I got because the games take too long. I don't have time.
Like, I was going to play a different game, but I was like, I'm going
You're basically
to
in the stage.
finish Greedfall.
You're in the
and then
stage
I'm
that
gonna
I was
play-
at, like a year
Yeah.
ago, where I was playing Assassin's Creed and then playing Minecraft. I was doing 2 games. You're doing Fortnite and Greedfall, but it got to a point
And
where
Apex.
I had to stop doing one or the other because I don't have the time. So I focus on one, but I've still got like 20 other games to play because I keep buying them. I keep thinking that would be interesting to play and stream. But another thing is, like, I don't play to have fun anymore. I only play to stream. So like, I don't sit
Yeah,
down
I've
and
sort
play.
of- I don't do that anymore, but like when I was on Twitch, it was if I'm playing this, I'm streaming it. I'm not playing
That's
it
what
for
I
me.
always think.
Look, I play Apex now just because I enjoy it.
My
Even if
life's
I'm
gone
not
up.
streaming it, I will still play it. Even if I'm playing, I don't play Greedfall because that is all story based. I can't hop into that without streaming it because I've already put in 15,
That's the
16,
same with
20
me. Like,
hours.
all the
into it.
games I want to play are all story based. So like Spider-Man, I really want to play it, but I don't want to play it off stream. But then I don't want to stream it.
Well, yeah, the thing you could do is you could do the side quests, but in Greedfall, the side quests actually make a difference to the game.
No, that's the thing.
They're
It's the
not
same with
just
Spider-Man.
side
Like, you
quests.
can do a side quest and it can lead you onto the mission.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to risk it. But I will go back to it because Abby's just... Did I tell you? Abby's just bought me Valhalla for Valentine's Day. So I might possibly be playing that. Even though
Valhalla
it's breaking my rules though, because I said I was going to play Assassin's Creed from the beginning. But thinking about it, I've bought 15 Assassin's Creeds last year, and I'm still on Assassin's Creed 2. So really, I should probably go backwards and start from the new one.
The problem is, I think for you, is that you're playing for stream. Like you're playing, like if you were playing Assassin's Creed not on stream, you would have finished them.
I know.
Like no joke. Like if you were just doing the main story, you could do.
But I
them
want
in,
to
like,
document
maybe
them.
2-3
Assassin's
weeks.
Creed 2, I've got one trophy left. I can't really do it. It's like to trip 10 enemies up. I don't know whether you want to try and do that for me, George, and get that platinum. It's
Well, the thing is,
impossible.
like, you're playing them to platinum them. I don't even play for 100% anymore.
Yeah, but Assassin's Creed 2, like, it's one that it was possible to platinum. Like, it seemed
Yeah,
doable, and I just wanted to do it. But it's just that one trophy. Maybe you can have a go, George, if you can do it. If you got my account,
Sure.
you'll probably do it in 5 minutes. To be fair.
Well, I have played
suck at gaming.
Assassin's Creed since Assassin's Creed 3.
I love you
love,
more than my ex love me.
Black Flag and
You're lucky to have a girl that doesn't cheat. Well, I mean, to be honest, I think everyone should have that. You should
yeah,
love
that
one
shouldn't
doesn't
be
do
a
it.
lucky thing to have.
But
You're just unlucky.
you know, it's not that, George. Everybody goes through that, you know, as we've said before on the podcast.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like
And
that
I've
is
been
a
through
growing
it,
up point
and
in
you
your
have
life.
to, you know, sift through the bad ones to get to the good one. So,
But I mean, the thing is, like, depending on, like, this might be a bit too like adult for you, but as long as you agree to have an open relationship or be polyamorous or whatever. Like, as long as you've had a discussion
Have you agreed that
with
with
your
Kat?
girlfriend about that. Fuck no. She'd never agree.
I know she would. Oh, that's like.
But like, as long as you both agree that open relationship or polyamory or you know, all these things will like, as long as you've had that discussion, then it's not cheating.
You know what? I
if
think
you haven't had
ruined
that discussion,
my previous relationships though was that I don't know. I just got too attached, and I was too like needy and stuff.
quite early, yeah.
Like I wouldn't. There wouldn't be like a minute that I wouldn't like text or whatever. But now I've just like, you know, I can actually be on my own and get stuff done for myself because I focused on myself for a bit and took the time. So now with Abby, it's more natural, like the way it should be. Like we both have our own space, but we both also, you know, spend time together. It's the best way to do it. So really focus on yourself and don't try and get too caught
But
up.
I mean, the thing is, I think, Caleb, you're like 11, 12, 13, however old you are, like...
You shouldn't be focused on girls though, guys. I mean, you know, before the age of like 16, probably even 18, I didn't even give a crap because I was too busy playing games. I think now kids grow up too quick.
That's not always a bad thing, though.
It's not,
but it can be if you're not having a child.
It was good for me because
Like,
I
I was
know for a
lucky.
fact if I was like these guys, I wouldn't get to uni because I'd be too distracted by women or girls.
Well, I mean,
As a kid.
the thing is, there's a certain age where you, like, when puberty hits, you're like, oh yeah, like, I'm interested in X or Y, male or female. You know, you have that discussion with yourself at like that age. You're like, oh yeah, okay. But even after that, you still need to have this discussion with yourself about what do you want in life. Which is weird to say when you're like 15, 16. But if you discover yourself before you discover other people, then that will make your life easier in the long run.
I know as well, like in uni, I wouldn't have got through it if I like maintained a relationship through it because I get too distracted. It's like, you know, Andrew, one of the reasons he failed his masters is because he was getting caught up with women. And obviously during my third year, like I did, not third year, but my masters, I did like start like dating a lot of people and stuff like that. Not a lot of people, but I started dating and stuff, and I got distracted.
Man was pulling bitches left, right, and center. Yeah.
So, you know, just focus on yourself basically, and then when you know, stable.
I mean, the thing is,
We're talking about it as if like we're talking to adults, man.
well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I know that people don't like being talked down to because you're 14 or whatever. You know,
Alpha's gonna get a
but
paramedic.
you do need to have like an adult conversation about this at some point, and not just the talk, which never really helped anyway. I don't think we're the people.
Alpha's
to
got the
do
right
it, but
mindset, I think.
I'll give it a goddamn try.
We're basically like your guys, like YouTube dads or something.
Yeah, like, and I'm fine with that. Like, I'm happy to have these conversations.
Well, you
because
need
it took
something
me a
like
while
that.
to figure out myself, right? So I think you were also the same. Like, you know, it's tricky to do anything really until you're.
But the thing is, like Caleb said earlier, like because his girlfriend left him, like it was like self-harming and stuff. He said that he cut himself.
Yeah.
Definitely don't do anything like that, man. Never do that to yourself. Like,
Well, the thing is,
worth
it's not as easy as that, is it? Like, I know the emotions are tricky, and you have to have a way to output those emotions. For me, that's why I did art at the start. That is why, like, I created things was a way to
relationships you're having now
hurt myself or the people around me.
At your age, and probably not going to be that influential in your life when you're like our age. It's,
No, absolutely. Like,
you know, you're going
I
to find
still
better people.
think about people that I dated, sure, but like, I don't think I would like them now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, they were
People
that I
change.
dated because I was with them at the time, right? I was there at school with them every day. They were in my form, they were in my class. That is why I got emotionally attached to them. which is fine.
It's like you were saying before,
Until
John. You
you
said
realise-
you said you got dumped in the middle of school, didn't you? Because like some guy
Oh yeah,
told to break
Yeah,
up with you.
exactly.
Like, that's tough. I mean, imagine that going through your head whilst you're at school, thinking,
mid lesson.
you know.
Yeah, in
It's
my
been
favorite
broken up.
lesson. That was back when I really
Did
enjoyed
you
history.
cry?
But suddenly, after that, I was like, oh yeah, history. You know.
Did you
And
cry,
it's a
George?
person.
Did you cry?
No, I was just really shocked about it.
That's the
it
thing,
hit
like,
me in a
I
way that
can't
nothing had hit
cry
me
like that.
before.
That's one thing about me. Like, it's really difficult to make me cry. I think the last time I cried was like when my nan died.
Yeah,
So
it's
even through
deaths are
breakups,
the only thing that seems to get me anymore.
like, I'm just like so cold-hearted. Like, I just won't react. I'll react in my head. I'm sad,
Yeah.
inside, but I don't try to tear for anybody because I think nothing can be
because
worse.
I
than
don't think
losing
it's worth
somebody.
it. Like my parents will be talking about people that have died, and I'm like, well, they're dead. There's nothing being like people that they don't know is what I mean. Like
Yeah, that sounds
people that
very
you don't have an
intense to what we
emotional
do.
attachment to.
However, like this happens every week. How do we get from games to this like really deep, serious stuff, man? Like,
Is the AMA?
we need to stop asking at the end of the
So-
podcast. Do you have any question?
Well, I mean, I'm
but
happy
it's
to talk
useful
about it
because we're trying to
I
help you
don't
guys and spread
really think I have that many emotions.
our
anymore.
wise knowledge.
Like
I don't think I do
I
either.
think my no, and I think it's something that we need to talk about because
I think
know
a lot
that
of time
I
you put
did.
on a laugh as well. Like I'm always smiling, but it's not always genuine.
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Emotions are weird and tricky, and it gets to a point where you're.
I think in this day and age, it's hard to like properly be happy because no one's ever satisfied. You know, like I can't remember the last time that I was genuinely like over the moon, like happy, like and realizing that moment. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's
Well,
weird.
I mean, I think the problem is school
I
changes
think you
you
get
in
so
a way that
wrapped
you
up
can't
in life
explain.
and you can't like enjoy things when they happen. You think about them later on, you think, bloody hell, that was amazing time in your life, but you don't get time to fully enjoy it. Time moves too quick.
Especially with school, right?
I
School
hope one
changes
day.
you in the way.
I hope one day this ends up on like a TikTok sound, and it's like, what's that TikTok song? It's okay, money, and then it's not going into this sad montage.
Oh, like for real, like I don't have many emotions. I don't really
I
get
think
sad.
That's
I
our
don't
generation, though, I think.
Yeah, well, the
That's
reason
mine
why
and
is
your
because we
generation.
were brought up online, right? And I think that is a
But
problem.
it might just be because we have
Like-
similar personalities in a way.
Well, no, because I know it's not just you. Like, I know that because I have lived most of my life through a computer screen, that I'm sort of acclimatized to things happening in real life based off of experience that I've had in games or even in like streams and stuff that I've seen. So, I mean, it's tricky to have this conversation really because I still don't quite understand it myself. Like, is it like really like depression? Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. But I've never been
Truly happy.
well, like I enjoy my life. Like, yeah, it can be better if I was living with my girlfriend, but you know, clearly
You know what it is? When we look at
that-
life, we think about it through video games and movies. It's not how it is it? You know what? You see that movies where they're just like running through fields and stuff and like having picnics.
Well, like I know that a lot of people feel the same way because there are so many posts about is it
I've
just
read it,
me
Alfie.
or is you know, is it just that like my emotions don't work, or is it something that's happened in my upbringing?
I think it's being a man, George. I think men don't speak about their emotions. Apart from me
Yeah,
and
but
you
they
on a
should.
random gaming podcast.
Well, no, but like this is like a big movement at the minute, right? With men's mental health awareness.
Yeah, what it is as well. It's men are always afraid to fail.
Oh
So,
no, I'm happy failing, man.
Not
I
afraid,
don't give a
but like
shit.
they are always embarrassed. Like when they fail, they're embarrassed, and it causes really bad depression.
I don't think that's not ever been the reason for me. Like the way that I've always thought about
But like
it
they bottle
was
everything up as well. Like I don't talk about it.
any time I've failed at something, I've learned something, and that's the way you've got to think about everything. Like, say you broke up with someone, think about why. Think about what happened, why that happened. Was it you? Was it them?
The problem is though,
Especially-
like I don't really fail very often. So for me, like, it's
All right,
so,
so
I don't wanna get, like-
over here. I
wanna
have never
brag,
failed.
no, I don't fail. But like even when I tried to fail, I end up succeeding. Yeah. I mean, it's like I say about masters. I pretty much did everything I could to fail that in a way, like not on purpose, but it just happened, like because I wasn't motivated, and like I was sitting there playing Apex with you for like 6 hours a day, and still managed to write an essay in 2 weeks and pass with pretty high mark, like a 20,000 word essay. You know,
Yeah,
and
Alfie, I agree with what
sabotage
you're
it.
writing. People shouldn't be mocked or afraid because they can write. Like,
thanks, you.
I think it's a lot better now than it was when we were at school. Like, people would get bullied for anything when we were at school. Like, they'd bully the autistic kid. They'd bully.
Well, it's got a lot better these days because, like, now it's seen, you know, that they should not be mocked or afraid to cry. But that's another thing with men. Like back in the day, like when we were growing up, if we did that, we would be mocked for it. But today, it's seen as like, you know, it's just as manly
that's
to do
shaped
that.
how we view
Because
life
it
based
shows
on
you
the
strong-
experience you've had. That is
strong
how
emotion.
people learn. People learn by experiences. So if you were bullied, you're more likely to bully, or if you were bullied and you didn't take it well, you're more likely to self-harm, even though bullies are the people that end up probably worse off most of the time. Like that is the thing. Like people bullied. Like there was a phase where people bullied geeks, right? And geeks ended up.
Are you talking about the
being
Amazing
people.
Spider-Man 2, George, with Electro? The one that gets bullied, and then he turned into the
I'm
enemy.
talking about like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or the tech entrepreneurs. Like they were all bullied because they were the smart kids, they were the nerdy kids. But you know for a fact that without them, nothing would be like it is now. And
Well,
I
it
mean, the
makes you
problem
think
with
different.
kids is that they don't think about repercussions, right?
The hell
like,
thing
I
about
know,
creating Bill Gates.
Even today, I saw some people throwing snowballs at moving cars. Like they clearly don't think about the repercussions. Like
I wouldn't do
somebody
that, though, 'cause I've
died,
never had that
that's
bad
on
habit.
them. Somebody gets injured, that's on the kids. But they wouldn't even get punished for it because the driver would be the one that had killed someone or gets killed.
I seen it on TikTok, and there's kids throwing snowballs at a bus, and they're like, try and ban us because we paid the driver. Like, doesn't make sense. Why put that on TikTok? Everyone would just call them scumbags in the chat. But yeah, if that driver couldn't see the road properly, swerved, you know, could go into a bunch of shops, could run over a bunch of people. Like a bus is just a big
Well,
piece
that's the thing. I mean,
transport.
in particular, I know that we had a particular maths teacher, and every time we were on the bus, he'd be like, "Don't stand up, don't mess about," because what's happened before is a bus driver's crashed, and the bus driver survived, but everyone on the bus died, and the bus driver had to live with the guilt because they got distracted by somebody else. Like, and that's happened a lot of times, especially in like the Channel Tunnel and stuff, where they've like, because they've turned around because someone's standing up or pissing about or whatever, they've turned to like tell them off or whatever, and the bus driver's gone into the centre where there's a barrier.
It's so funny
and
we're having this conversation about buses, and Alfie and Caleb just keep stating all they want to do in life every 5 minutes.
You will know, but like the thing is, it's good to have dreams and to be like know what you want to do, because I don't know what I want to do. Do you know what you want to do?
Well, I've got some plans, but what's gonna happen? Well, no,
Exactly.
The thing with me is like I've always like switched between things, but it's always like either art or creativeness to it. It's always been like creatively driven or creative driven. We'll see.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We've both been like that, because from a young age, I've made stuff. I painted. I've
Even this now
glued shit
is
to other
creating
shit.
a piece of work.
Yeah,
Me and George.
this is something that will be saved for us, even if no one else ever watches it. It's something that we've done for ourselves. It's how we've always seen anything we've ever done, really. Even when we were at university, the stuff we made was for us,
Yeah.
even though it was.
I mean, like, yeah, this is not really scripted or planned, guys, because no other podcast would you go from talking about games to some like serious, deep stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like anything can happen. It's just like two mates having a chat, really.
So the
That's
one
exactly
thing I
what-
want to
that's
tell
exactly-
for everyone.
What me and George
Is-
are like when we live together, we just sit there and talk about random crap for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then talk about some serious stuff.
So, I just want to tell everyone in both chats, or anyone that's watching this in future, always be yourself, man. Never change for
This is
someone or
another
people
TikTok
or
background.
anything, because it's not worth it. It's never worth it to change yourself for someone else.
When you get older, guys, you get wiser. So
No, not,
I know
not
me
even.
and George
We don't
chat
get
a lot of
wiser.
rubbish, but
We've just
we
lived
just listen.
mistakes. That's the only thing that's wise about us, is that
I
we've
don't think
learned
I've
from our
ever, I
mistakes.
think I've ever tried to be like anyone else though. Like I'm one of the most annoying people, but I'll still go around annoying people on purpose because that's just my personality. And if you can't gel with it,
Yes, he will.
that's the thing. Me and George are kind of similar though, so we kind of got on well. The first time, like I said this before, me and George went to uni together. I didn't speak to him for the first year of uni. We went on a trip. I was walking back, so I had to get on the tram. Literally, next thing I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I think about moving to you next year." And the next thing you know, we was living together in the same flat. And no one else I could have a conversation with. Next thing you know, next conversation moved in.
Exactly, Caleb. Don't change yourself to fit in. Like, yeah, you'll get bullied for it, but so what? Like, as long as you don't, like, comment on it or, like, don't give them more to go on. Like, I was bullied. I was bullied, like, every day for probably 5 years. But it gets to a point where you're like, yep, I do have fuzzy hair, yep. You've pulled my hair, yep. Like, as long as you've got a straight face, they won't go too far most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the problem with bullies in school, they always say they care about anti-bullying measures, but they never do. They never have done, they never will do, because it's one of the ways that schools enforce conformity. They care about your school uniform. They care about, you know,
when George
how-
gets deep. Carry on, George. I don't know how we got to this one. I'm talking about school conformity.
No, but they do. That's what schools are like founded to do. They get rid of outliers. They get rid of people that might be different. You know.
It's not that though, because a lot of bullies are the result of the parents. Not bringing
Yeah,
up
exactly.
family.
Like a lot of the time, you can't blame the people.
And
because
sometimes
their
it's not
upbringing is
even-
shit.
It's not even that they had a bad upbringing. It's just that like their parents were too strict, or their parents even abused them, and then they abused somebody else.
It's
Somebody else.
nature versus nurture, right? It's you learn based on what
Bullying.
happens to you, and even like it's like they put on a persona to sort of protect themselves from stuff a lot of the time. Like I know that like a lot of bullies have
Caleb said someone
Like
makes fun of his nan being dead. Cross the line.
yeah
The thing is, that's kind of what sense of humor is like today. Like, I would never make a joke like that. I think it's, you know, you go into hell if you say something like that, in my opinion. And I would never say it, but some people will. You know, especially in today's society, the kids, like, they've got such a dark sense of humour. They think everything's a laugh, but really, subjects like that, it's like a written rule that you don't touch. You know.
But we've learned that there are lines that don't get crossed, because if you say something, you get smacked a lot of the time. And
should we do an anti-bullying podcast?
I mean, I wasn't really bullied that much, to be honest. Like,
you just said every day for 5 years, George.
Yeah, but it never crossed the line, and it never.
Well, that's because you don't react. If you react, it gets worse. It depends.
Well, no,
if you react,
like, the only
and it goes
thing,
bad.
the only thing they would do.
If you react and it doesn't work.
Oh, bro, I nearly knocked someone out. Honestly, like he used to like. So I'm gonna name. I'm not gonna name names. Sorry. I'm gonna call him Dylan because that was his name. No, I'm kidding. So he tried to like hit me a lot of times, but he was like the weakest little noodle boy, and this is coming from me, who is the second weakest noodle boy. He came to school one day with a broken arm, and he tried to run me over on a bike with a broken arm. So I just kicked his wheel, and like he just fell off, and he just laid on the floor for about like 20-30 minutes, and the bus came and we just fucking left him. Like, bro, honestly, that kid was a nightmare to me. But like, so there are two ways to get rid of bullies. One, hit them. You'll get into trouble for that. Two, ignore them and just build up a mental like barrier about it.
That's the thing. Like, I've been bullied in the past, and like my mental barrier is so high. Like, it's
mine
come
is now,
close.
like after that,
it's come close, but no one's ever been able to push me to, you know, be violent towards them or do anything.
No, well, you've seen it with me. Like, I've never really got mad at anything apart from like one thing with you, and that was
threw a sponge at me.
Ended up with me throwing a sponge, because if I'd have thrown anything else, it would have hurt you, and I'd never want to hurt someone who didn't deserve it. And even people that deserve it, I don't want to hurt them, really. Like, the person that tried to run me over, I kicked him over because he was trying to hit me. Yeah, but you'd rather the first option, but then that ends up with you being a bully once you've learned that mentality, really.
God, if we get onto fat shaming there. Definitely been there. People have been there.
Honestly, bro, I've not been to fat shaming, but I've seen it, and it ain't cheery, folks. Never.
Well, again, like,
never.
you know, things are changing now, because, like, you know, obviously body image and body positivity is all the range now, but 10 years ago, you know.
Bro, it was horrible.
It's bad in kids, though, because, like,
the horrible thing is, like, I'd do it without realizing, and then as soon as I'd realize, I'd be like, oh shit, like I've bullied someone, and like sitting on that for like 10 years now and thinking about it now.
Well, some people say that when you say
shit.
things like that, it can help you to, like, you know, fix it, but really it can also cause internal stuff, because then you start to think, you know, it like leaves a mental scar, and then people can end up with eating disorders and things. Just don't rise to it, Alfie.
I mean, it's the same with Caleb. Like, honestly, bro, it ain't worth like knocking someone out or hurting them when in the end you'll be the one that has the criminal record, or you'll be the one that gets.
That's another reason why I've never got into fights, because I've always wanted to like go to uni and be a teacher and stuff and do like a high paid job, and if you get a criminal record, you're done for. So
yeah, exactly. So even though you're young, like, you will get a criminal record. You'll end up in juvie or whatever, and it ain't worth it for somebody who has been making fun of you for like the stupidest reason, even, you know. And it's like, maybe that's how he's trying to make a
what was going on my face?
like a connection, you know. Who knows? Like, it's a dick move, absolutely, but you, like, the problem is you don't know how people think, and that's a problem that we will always have. People think differently, people act differently, people are brought up differently. They will always learn different things. You will never be the same as someone else. So their mindset be like,
We gotta stop
completely
getting
different to
deep like
yours.
this one.
Oh yeah, I know, but it's helpful, hopefully, to somebody. Like if
Yeah,
it
but
helps someone get through bullying, then
if we did this for another couple of hours, I would like start crying, man, because I don't see you get deep like that very often, George. Because we don't normally talk about things like this.
it
We
does
only
need to
play
be said,
games and
people don't
chat
talk about it
rubbish.
enough. Ever.
Yeah, well, if we can reach some people and do some good,
Like that's all we've ever wanted to do was to help people or to entertain people.
Well, that's a
Like,
good thing, if you sit
they're
through
not
3 hours of
mutually
our content,
independent.
we actually start talking about useful things that can help you mentally.
Yeah, it's worrying when we're doing it.
It's very worrying. It's caught me off guard a bit, man.
Yeah, but Caleb, the thing is, it is not worth it. It's not worth rising to their level for someone that, probably will end up beaten by someone else. They
Karma.
will let someone else do it for you. Like, if they're fucking with other people, they're going to get smacked one day. There's going to come a point where he's going to make a joke and someone's going to hate it and they're going to punch him. And it doesn't have to be you, is the thing. Like, that could be someone else. That could be a full-grown adult. Like, for real. If they say something wrong to someone else, like, in the real world, they'll get beaten the shit up. Because there's really no repercussions if you're not found out. But in school, criminal record. In school, it'll be a mark on your future career. It'll be, this thing that for one little word or a couple of sentences, and these motherfuckers be like knocked out in one punch or whatever, and suddenly you're the bad guy because you've now got the criminal record. You've got the
nice
bad
people get
stuff.
used and taken advantage of. I mean, it's true, but everything comes back around, man. So if people use you and take advantage of you, it'll come back on them at some point. Life's a long road, man. It'll get them at some point.
Oh, like Caleb, I completely understand, man. But honestly, never take it out on them. Take up a sport. Take up a hobby. Throw paint at a wall. Get your anger out in a different way that won't get you in trouble.
Smash up your
That is a reason
car
why some
and
people
jump.
do boxing, right? Like, because they want to get their anger out against a punching bag or something. That's why people go to the gym sometimes, because they want to get their anger out in a
Just
way that is
ignore it,
positive.
because he's, effectively dissing the dead, which is, it's not very good, is it? Like, I always think people who do that are gonna go to hell, basically. So ignore it.
I mean, I don't believe in God or hell or anything.
Well, I don't
but
really
do
believe in it either, but I believe that if you say stuff like that, it's bad stuff's gonna happen, because you can't just go around saying stuff like that about the dead.
Yeah, well,
It's
I mean,
like George
the
said,
thing
though,
is-
if you ignore people for long enough, they just stop anyway. So just ignore it.
Yeah.
It'll actually hurt him more if you don't say anything to that. He wants a reaction out of you.
Yeah, that's
Well,
all
well,
the bullies
you
will
know.
ever look for, is a reaction, because once you've done a reaction, they'll be like, this guy's a target, we can do this. And I know it's not easy because you're autistic.
My
or
pen
whatever,
doesn't move,
and
man. And I
it's
had a heart
tricky.
attack because I was in the moment getting deep.
And what, your chair moved?
Something moved in my room, and I was like, "Ah." I'm out here trying to focus on upcoming GCSEs, and I've picked my options, but I can't because some people are being horrible
Yeah, what did you pick,
Not
DJ?
letting
On
over-
why are they being horrible, man? Let us
in life. What do you mean you can't?
let's listen.
How do other people have, a say in your GCSEs apart from the teachers? That's the thing. Online friends is a good thing right now, though, because most people can't go out and interact with people.
Well, as long as you've got some sort of human. Oh yeah, I know it does, Kellen, because of your autism. Like, that's something that you're never really going to be able to control. But as long as you find an outlet for your
Just imagine if we had a
emotions,
gaming
it'll make it
episode, we could
easier.
actually do this IRL, green screen behind us, and it could be so professional.
Yeah, I know.
It's never going to happen, though, because George is a bully. No, I'm joking.
Come on, TJ. Fill us in with your upcoming GCSEs. We want information.
I can't handle it when George gets deep, man. I just want to tear up, so I have to say some random crap.
Why is no one letting you focus, my guy? Like, ICT, great choice. All of the world's going digital. ICT will
Animal
be
care. I've
one
never
of the
seen
easiest
animal
ways to
care
get a
being
job.
offered.
Photography, also a good choice. That's a way to let your emotion.
My uncle's halfway and now he's turned his life around. Yeah, that's all you need, man. Just gotta believe in yourself.
Animal care. Animal care is great.
Well, I
Like,
don't think you need
there
to
will
worry about
always
that.
be
Yeah,
a need
Alfie.
for vets. There will never not be a need for vets. There will never not be a need for computer engineers or photographers. Like, those are three solid choices, my guy.
Your girlfriend lived with you
Why?
and slept in the same bed, same room.
You're
I bet live with you.
14,
You're
my
14
guy.
years old, dude. If you did, that is pretty bad, to be honest.
Now we're just waiting for information to roll through on the 30-second delay. There comes a time when you realise that you don't want a relationship with someone so close to you, especially not in the early days. Like, you'll. So. I had a friend
ICT
that
would
lived
be
around the
good.
corner, but we never became a couple because that would be weird, you know. Like, I'd known her for so long. Like, that's kind of weird, Caleb. That's worrying, to be honest.
So what's up with picking ICT then? Do ICT, man. What's the problem?
ICT is great. Like, digital's brilliant, my guy. Like,
If you wanted
the
to
people
live
that
with-
won't let you focus are the people that will not end up well if they're
I
doing
don't-
stuff like
I don't know.
what would their things be if they're not doing ICT? Like maybe engineering, but engineering's good.
We gotta end soon because I'm getting sleepy, man.
Yeah, I know. Same. We'll do a couple more questions and then we'll be like,
Maybe we'll have to do like a anti-bullying one of the weeks or something.
maybe because it does need to be talked about, and if we're people that can talk about it, then you know.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
maybe
that's-
we're the
that's
only
what we do.
people that can connect with these people. Because think about it, you know, sometimes people watching us look up to us a bit. I know we don't have a big audience, but and when we talk about things, they listen, but they won't necessarily speak to their parents or someone IRL. So
Yeah, I mean, like, Caleb, 14 is not an age for close relationships, my guy. I hate to break it to you.
I'm around that age of close relationship. Can't even make me laugh now, man.
So, like, honestly, like, I
Anyway,
was
Caleb,
dating since I was
I'm gonna
13
put a rule in
and-
place now. If Caleb talks about his girlfriend one more time, I'm gonna ban him in chat. I'm gonna time him out every time because we've
Okay,
said
so-
this. You gotta get over it.
So, I
Keep talking about it.
dated, was, I'm gonna put air quotes around this, intimate, from a very young age, and it's not worth it. Legitimately, it's not worth it. It's ruined my expectations on everything, to be honest.
Why?
Like, well, I was intimate at 13 with another 13-year-old, my guy, and it, why have you done this to my face at such an important juncture?
Because
It
you're
ruins
talking.
everything about how you think about things for a long time. Yeah, honestly, my guy, it will ruin all of your expectations on everything. So, like, move on from that part of your life.
I don't get it though. I don't get it. It can ruin your expectations.
Uh,
I definitely wasn't intimate at that age, George.
when I say intimate, I mean
I know what you
in
mean, George.
the biblical sense.
Biblical sense. Now you've lost me.
That's what church people say.
You've lost me now, George. Did you whack her over the head with a Bible?
Yeah, that's it.
What does it
Bible
say?
bash.
I don't get it. Rude
But,
your
like,
expectations.
So
You mean because you were so young and you thought,
yeah, because I was young and
You know,
it
it's a different
changed how I
kind of-
thought about things for a long time. Like, legit.
Was that a guy or a girl?
Worth. Oh, it was a girl.
Because I know you buy. So I was like, which one was it?
His business studies good. Honestly, my friend studied it and he works at Tesco's, so probably not.
Well, it's like I said, George. If I was exposed to that at that age, I wouldn't be where I wouldn't be at uni because I would always have that on my mind.
That on your mind. Exactly. Like, it's tricky to talk about in a way that won't get us demonetized or won't get you demonetized. I guess.
I hope this channel doesn't get terminated because George talking about his sex life, but you know, different ages.
Oh yeah, exactly, TJ. Like, if you're interested in it, then go for it. But it's completely up to you. You won't ever get a job based off anything. You have to put the effort in. You have to.
They're not really
do the hard
GCSEs
work
anyway.
yourself and
The
not
GCSEs
just-
you need are maths and English. Basically, that's it.
But I mean, even then, you only really need them for to get into university to then learn everything else.
Well, you need it for your first job.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, even then, no, you can sort of get away with not having English and maths, depending on what job you choose. It's your first job, I guess.
Right, I think before we go any deeper down the wormhole, guys, because it's getting it's getting very deep, very personal, especially for
And
George.
my voice is getting sore.
I don't know
and
what's
sorer,
happened to George
and
today. I think he has been on
I'm
the
slowly
whiskey.
getting emotional.
Because he started off like he was completely,
It was the sugar high,
Yes.
then the sugar rush, man.
and
then
now
the
he's
sugar-
just
sugar
gone
down.
downhill. Now he's just like gone really melancholy for no reason. Well, it's actually you guys in the chat that have spawned that. But yeah, maybe we'll do a deep conversation podcast. I don't know. These podcasts are getting even weirder. The scope of these podcasts is just 1 minute we can be doing gaming, the next minute we can be talking about different washing line brands or whatever. I don't know, and then we'll be talking about mental health. But we should definitely do a mental health awareness podcast, or maybe even a gaming stream. Hopefully, if the
Yeah,
channel
I
gets
mean,
bigger, we can do some fundraisers.
We'll get a chance to as we go on with the stuff we talk about. It'll be more and more.
We need the podcast to get bigger though, because podcast, it's good though because it's quite intimate. Because we're speaking to 3 people who always watch the channel and know us, so we can have a proper chat. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, guys, and get some sleep because I can't listen to George getting deep anymore, man. Because he doesn't do that. I'm gonna start tearing up, man. I'll be honest with you. I've never seen George.
So
like
then, gamers, we're gonna go.
But yeah,
See you later.
we're gonna go. So have a good night, guys.
Bye, guys.
Get some sleep.
This has been interesting.
Dream about some classic game console.